What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Multiverse Monologues, the podcast show where we like to travel across the multiverses and fandoms that we love to talk about the movies and television shows that accompany those universes. Welcome back, folks, to the Star Wars movie marathon. We are well into and nearing the end of the Star Wars movie marathon. Very, very sad. And this week we have the absolute pleasure of diving into and discussing Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. This is the very hotly anticipated sequel to The Force Awakens. I know in 2017 it was the most anticipated movie on everyone's list. I remember being in school when the first teaser trailer released, and Luke Skywalker at the end said it's time for the Jedi to end. And who knew what that meant? And then the movie came out in December of 2017, and the Star Wars fandom was forever changed. Forever changed. I don't know if there's ever been a more decisive film than The Last Jedi when it was released. And even now, to this day, in 2024, it's still hotly debated amongst fans. It has its people who give it so much praise, and it has people who love to say a lot of negative things about this movie. And, you know, people have their opinions, and we here at Multiverse Monologues are certainly going to give our opinions. Is it as bad as the internet will make it seem? Is it an underrated addition to the Star Wars franchise? You know, we're going to find out right here on Multiverse Monologues. But first, introductions are in order. First off, introducing Mr. Ethan Wensloff. Ethan, how are you doing?
Guys, I'm doing really good. We're talking about The Last Jedi. And Ben, I know you told me and Micah this PSA to start, but you got a PSA for the audience and the people listening at home. I just want you to share that briefly.
Yes. So there are going to be a wide variety of opinions on this podcast for sure. I have been pretty vocal on how much I dislike this movie, and I still dislike it, but there are things we're going to talk about in this podcast, but we are going to have a variety of opinions on this podcast. So some good and some very bad. But I will say this, I would love, and I know these two gentlemen sitting beside me would love to know your opinions on this movie. And I would encourage you not to just go straight to the comments and say, this movie sucks and it ruined the sequel trilogy. If you don't like it, give more than that, because it's become kind of stereotypical at this point. We know people think that. Tell us why you like it or don't like it. I just don't want to see someone going in there and saying they hate it just because they hate it, you know? That's what I would say. So the PSA for the audience, that's your PSA.
Let's be civil down there.
Yes, we need to be civil if having a conversation about The Last Jedi is possible.
A big thing that Ben highlighted was he said, boys, I still love you. End of the day, still going to love you. And I want that sentiment to be heard across the vast galaxy. Even if we disagree, and we will today on this movie, that we can have fun doing it, you know? So I'm ready to talk about The Last Jedi. I got a good history with this movie, and I'm excited to dive into it.
Some happy beeps going. That's good.
Well, speaking of things that I love, I want to introduce Mr. Micah Hatt. Micah, how are you?
I'm doing great. I hope you don't strike me down in anger, because I'll always be with you. If you do, I'll always be with you, Ben. And I'm just hoping that we're not saltier than Crate by the end of this. So let's just get right into it, Ben.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting podcast. I would like to really have a civil discussion on this. I don't want to be yelling across the way at each other. We're going to have a civil discussion.
We might get into that, though.
It's true. It's happened before on the Star Wars Marathon. We have been yelling at each other before. And if there's any movie that this would happen, because, guys, in the 6 years that Last Jedi has come out, there's been a lot of yelling, hasn't there? There's been a lot of crying online about this movie.
And we're here to do more of that.
That's right. We've got another podcast coming out that's going to definitely have some very hot opinions. But again, leave those comments down below. Consider giving it a like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. But gentlemen, without further ado, let's get into it. Let's hit the hyperdrive and head over to the Star Wars galaxy.
I want every gun we have to fire on that man! More!
Jedi are romanticized, deified. But if you strip away the myth and look at their deeds, the legacy of the Jedi is failure, hypocrisy, hubris.
That's not true.
At the height of their powers, they allowed Darth Sidious to rise, create the Empire, and wipe them out.
The First Order reigns. Having decimated the peaceful Republic, Supreme Leader Snoke now deploys his merciless legions to seize military control of the galaxy. Only General Leia Organa's band of resistance fighters stand against the rising tyranny. Certain that Jedi Master Luke Skywalker will return and restore a spark of hope to the fight. But the resistance has been exposed. As the First Order speeds toward the Rebel base, the brave heroes mount a desperate escape. And that is your opening crawl, folks, for maybe it's up for debate, but would you say that this is the most divisive movie of all time?
That I've experienced.
Is there a more divisive film?
I don't know.
Maybe it's because of the internet.
This was the first time I ever saw a movie and I left it and went to talk to someone and we were just not on the same page.
Yeah.
I'd never experienced that before until I watched this movie. Before, I'm like, okay, people either like movie. I was also younger, but you either like a movie or you don't like a movie. But this was just so muddled. And you still feel that today. A lot of, I'd say more hate I see for this than anything.
Yeah.
But I think, and we're going to talk about it, is because I think that the people who like this movie have learned how to be real quiet over these past few years. And I'm ready to talk about it.
Okay. All right. Well, as that one police officer guy says in The Dark Knight Rises, you are in for a show tonight.
Ooh.
Because that's what we're about to have. I mean, Micah's
Scrolling through Letterboxd, the top 20 reviews, there's 2.5 star by Shifrillis.
Well,
everything else is 5, 4, 4.5. And there's some, maybe having a higher liked review is because if you like a movie, you'll scroll through and like all the reviews you agree with. But on Letterboxd, a good chunk of them are positive. Just go into our reviews real quick.
What's the overall Letterboxd score?
Metacritic, 3.
For Last Jedi?
A 3, yep, out of 5. The Metacritic score, this is our second highest Metacritic score.
The Rotten Tomatoes one's high for this too, right?
All of the other scores are like 8th place out of all of our movies. So it's not the worst, but it's the very 50-50 split is amazing in this. How just every end, like both ends of the spectrum, you're seeing for this movie. You're seeing people who love this movie, best one ever. You're seeing this is the worst, takes the worst decisions in Star Wars ever. It's like, is this the most revolutionary film in Star Wars ever? Or is this piece of trash, shouldn't have existed, rewrite the canon of sequel trilogy?
Right, and if you fall somewhere in between those two, your opinion is deemed invalid a lot of the time. And I'd say maybe that's where I fall, somewhere in between the two.
Ethan, you want to take us through your experience with Last Jedi?
My history with Last Jedi is a fun one because my relationship with this movie forever changed my relationship with Star Wars. It was opening night. I went and saw this movie. And yes, there are things in this movie I really didn't like then, and I still don't like now. But there are a lot of things that I did really enjoy in this movie. And I left this movie and I thought, okay, that wasn't my favorite Star Wars movie, but there are a lot. I thought there was some really cool moments. But then I started talking to people about it and realized, okay, maybe this wasn't a good movie. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't understand what a movie should be. So I'm talking to people, and I kind of got a lot of hate for not even saying I love this movie, but saying I maybe liked it in a little way. And I don't know, over the years, it's kind of stayed that way. I've never rewatched this movie since theaters just because of that taint I had on it. And honestly, it kind of scared me away from Star Wars entirely, this movie, because I realized, okay, saying I kind of like a movie isn't worth getting all the hate that I'm getting for this, right? I do not like this. The attack that happens when I say there's actually some good stuff in that movie. So I boxed it away. Never talked about it. This poster that sits behind me has been taped on my wall in my room since 2017, but there has been a poster hanging over it, covering this poster.
And which one was that?
And it was, for a long time, it was my Infinity War poster. Now it is currently an Empire Strikes Back poster. But I'd say that's where this sits for me. This is a movie that I'm excited to talk about it. I like some elements in this, but I'm not going to go brag and say that I like some elements in this because it's not a party movie. It's not, oh yeah, let's talk about The Last Jedi and why it's enjoyable. Like, Ben, you were telling me how you were at a convention and just hearing a Star Wars fan mention they like this movie, you're like, I don't want to talk to you. We're done.
So,
right?
To expand on that story, it was actually insane to watch because there was a whole group of us waiting outside the Clone Wars 15th anniversary panel, and we were all talking Star Wars. Everyone's talking about prequels, original trilogy. Their favorites are Empire, Revenge of the Sith. And this guy comes in and he said, I really like The Last Jedi. And slowly, over the next 15 minutes, the circle kind of just booted him out.
Yeah.
And he was kind of left on the outside. And then he kind of turned away and walked away after like half an hour.
And I'd say that's very much where I sit with this movie. I don't love it. I like a lot of it, though. And it's the Star Wars fans that scare me from this. And it kind of scared me from Star Wars as a whole, which I hate to say. I grew up on Star Wars. I love Star Wars. But I deemed Star Wars not worth it to endure with what I felt with this. And yeah, for this rewatch, I kept pushing this movie off because I knew we had to watch it for the podcast. I normally watch all of these with my dad. I got a quote from my dad this week. He said, the further we get into watching these movies, the less motivated I am to watch them. And so I wasn't able to get together with him. And it was last night, and I had to host an open gym at my church. So I'm like, okay, when am I going to watch this? So I rounded up a few of those guys after the open gym. I'm like, hey, you want to go watch The Last Jedi? So I gather 4 guys. I'll shout them out: Ryan, Kevin, John. We get about a few of them trickle out earlier. It was actually Kevin had never seen Star Wars.
Never.
He watched the first 10 minutes and he goes, Ethan, I'm going to tell you this. I feel like I would really love Star Wars, but I have to leave. So he left. And then slowly people left. And then we got about an hour in and everyone was leaving. So I'm like, I'm tired. I got to close up the church. So I went home. Went to bed, woke up this morning, 6 a.m., finished the rest of this movie, and I enjoyed it. I don't love it. There are the parts I hated then, I still don't like now, but I've grown a little on a lot of this movie. And I'm not afraid to pull my poster out.
Not afraid anymore.
From behind the wall and display it for all to see, okay? So I think the poster is a good representation of my fandom for this.
Come out of the Last Jedi closet.
It's something that's always it's something that's always hung there, but maybe it was covered up for a little while. I'm excited to talk about it, guys.
Yes, that is a really great preview for your thoughts, Ethan. I can't wait to get into it. Mr. Het, you posted a Letterboxd review, and I won't spoil it here, but take us through your journey with The Last Jedi.
So we have finally made it. This is the movie where I infamously walked out of the theater and felt I had to have a ranking in place.
I need to rank
my Star Wars movies because everyone at the time was saying, "Oh, what's your favorite?" What after Episode 7, after Rogue One, everyone was like, "All right, you got to get your rank going." And I infamously, straight out of the theater, I put this at second place. Do I think it's second place today? No, just right off the bat. But over the years, I was scared to revisit it, like Ethan said, because the sentiment that I heard from the large, the loud minority or half or majority, I don't know, was that this movie was bad in every way, complete trash. This and Rise of Skywalker and Solo, for that matter, just not worth watching at all. Just dismiss them completely. A lot of what people were saying the prequels were for such a long time, I want to add. And now we are, 6 years, 5 years removed?
5.5.
5.5 years removed. And we are watching The Last Jedi. And I got to say, from a new perspective, from considering the developments in character that they put forward, the expectations that we have going into a Star Wars movie, this does flip everything on its head. This takes your hotshot hero and humbles him. It takes your general commander that's very open about the plan, right? And sharing it with everybody, and shuts out this hotshot guy from knowing it, the one who you would expect to do the plan, right? It turns the heroes into kind of antagonists to the real heroes, the ones that are trying to get the real plans done. It's showing these villains. You got Kylo Ren, who is stuck dealing with the temptations of the light side, and Rey dealing with the temptations of the dark side. There's so many complicated relationships in this, and I love where they take these. And I don't know if people really acknowledge those as much. The main vocal thing is, Finn and Rose, their plot was trash, right? Yeah, that was trash. And then they dismissed the whole movie. I think there are a lot of nuggets of greatness in this movie. And to dismiss the entire movie, much like how the prequels were dismissed, is to do this a disservice. Because J.J. Abrams spent a lot of time, I'm sure you guys have seen the books, right? You've seen or was this Rian Johnson? Rian Johnson. Sorry, got the director wrong. Rian Johnson. He did Knives Out. I love those movies. If you want to pull up a picture of it, he's got books on books of notes that he took for this movie. And it's evident in the writing here. He took what you thought might happen, flip it on its head, much like what would happen in Knives Out. That's his style. If you pay attention to that, you'll love this movie. As far as I saw it, I love this movie because I paid attention to those things. You see the director's intent in every decision here. And it's clear, like Mark Hamill, he read the script and he straight up said to him, he was like, I disagree with every single fundamental decision that you made for Luke Skywalker's character in this film. But I recognize that you are the director. I will respect that, and I will act out Luke Skywalker to the best of my abilities. And Mark Hamill knocks it out of the park. I can't wait to talk about him. But yeah, I think that the writing, except for the Finn and Rose plot, everything is very well written.
Okay.
Yeah. And
that sounds largely positive.
Largely positive. I was largely positive going out of the theater originally. I don't know if I would be able to. I definitely remember that Finn and Rose was a trash plot then with the, what's the casino planet?
That would be Canto Bight.
Canto Bight. Yeah, I remember specifically saying that plot sucked. But I remember everything else felt so lived, so real. Like these characters felt deep for the first time. And that's what I was expecting going into this, because episode 7 had this mystery box. We talked about that last week or 2 weeks ago, where we're like, all right, we need character development in this next Star Wars installment. We need definitive, progression. And we get that for the first time in a while, I would say, for a lot of characters. Yeah. And can't wait to talk about it, I guess.
Okay. Well, we are talking about it.
I know. I can't wait to delve into our character discussions.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm
really
got
excited
a largely
to hear, what Ben
You got a largely positive review
Yes.
of this film, preview for this film from Micah. You're going to get a largely negative one from me. Just as you were talking, my heart started beating faster because I disagree. I disagree.
You're breaking
And
my heart.
I am going to do
You're
my
going down
very
a path
best
I can't follow.
to be objective here, to keep my cool, because I have a lot of things to say about
Are we
this
saying
movie.
I should have sat between you two this week? Is
No,
that, is that what should have
absolutely not.
happened?
We need to
It-
keep
it's-
this. We need to keep this structure.
I love Micah. This is in no way an attack on anything like that. If I say negative things about the movie, it's about the movie. I totally respect. I totally respect both of your opinions on this and every movie we review on the podcast. But for me,
Ben,
this movie is.
we all have relationships with different movies in different ways. What is yours, Ben?
So when I watched this, I'll say this. In 2017, I was hyped out of my mind for this. And I actually will say this. I credit this in particular, Force Awakens and Last Jedi, for making me a super fan of Star Wars.
Cool.
For making me want to dig into this universe for more. It's after this movie that everything kind of falls apart. But the lead up to The Last Jedi, for me, watching so many videos and essays about where they could take the story and different who's Snoke, who's Rey's parents, where is the story gonna take these characters? And so you go in with all of these thoughts. What's going to happen to all of your fan favorite characters? I remember being outside at my job 2 days before. It was cold out, and I went outside, and very like the cringe young dude that I sat outside and I just kind of stood there and meditated like, man, I love Star Wars so much. And I'm so excited to watch The Last Jedi in theaters. I got done with my basketball game,
Taking in the
and I
moment
didn't
before.
talk to anyone. I raced outside because my dad was waiting for me, and my dad and I went and saw The Last Jedi in theaters. And the whole time, as I'm watching this movie, I start to get these weird, this feels weird. This feels off for me. What's the deal here? And the whole time after the movie ended, my dad said he fell asleep during the movie. And so we go home and we're discussing
You're getting
it.
the bad vibes from your dad.
I was like, what's the deal here? We both kind of went away and we were like,
Well,
What
your
happened
dad,
there?
your dad took a nap.
he took a nap.
Much like my sister took a nap in Force Awakens in the Extreme Theater.
And then you go online. And then it all changes.
Yeah.
Because I will say I didn't have the super insane, strong, feelings towards this when I stepped out of the theater. I don't think anyone did unless you were unless you went in with a
hate.
specific vision for this
Yeah.
movie,
The hate didn't flow through you yet.
But once you go online and you start to think through some of the plot points in this movie and some of the character beats and where they take fan favorite characters, for me, I started to realize how much that Disney and Rian Johnson, for me, messed up this trilogy and the character arcs of these characters because of Last Jedi. To this day now, I have not revisited either. I tried watching it for Rise of Skywalker. I got halfway through and we got to Canto Bight, and I didn't really care to finish it anymore.
Which I'm surprised how quick Canto Bight goes for me
Right?
now.
Yeah.
I thought it was a lot longer.
Yeah, in my mind, it was like 2 hours of this 2.5 hour movie, but what is it, like 20 minutes maybe?
If that, yeah.
Very short.
pretty
There's
short,
not much
yeah.
that happens, and they're gone. And I'm like, oh, all right.
Oh, wait.
And they jump
yeah.
back between them and the Space Force pretty frequently, where you're like, okay, well, it's a nice break in between these moments of tension in space.
But for me, the big issue, and I have a lot of them with this movie, guys, a lot of them, but the big issue that comes with it is Luke Skywalker. I've been vocal about that in the past. Where The Last Jedi takes Luke Skywalker, I am with Mark Hamill on this. And I didn't know any of this press leading up to it. I was only positive about this movie going into it. I didn't hear about Mark Hamill pretty much trashing this movie on the press tour, and which is crazy to think about because, I mean, Disney kind of nixed it after that because he came back and apologized and he was like, okay, I don't feel that bad, but I personally disagree with every decision that Rian Johnson makes with his character and some of the other characters as well. Now, I am not overly, I don't think everything in this movie is bad, but it is this movie that made me really, really angry with Star Wars. And yeah, like Ethan, it kind of turned me away from this movie. I went and saw Solo, and I honestly, because of this and where Star Wars was at, I saw it and then kind of just let it go, It didn't help that Infinity War also came out that month too. So, but yeah,
Solo.
Yeah, Solo. It's Infinity War. They came out same month. So I don't like this movie. I really don't like this movie. It cannot be overstated how much this hurts me, wrecks me.
Yeah.
But I am excited to talk about it. And if I start to go off the deep end here, let me know.
Let's
Please.
do it.
Keep me in check.
Let's dive right into the hot button topic, Luke Skywalker. Let's do it, Ben. Talk about Luke.
So here's my main issue with Luke Skywalker. You take him, and we've all watched him on this podcast, and we've seen the original trilogy many, many, many times. And in the original trilogy, you get a version of Luke that is hopeful, that is all that he wants to do. His one singular mission above all else is to redeem his father, the second most evil man in the galaxy, a man who was slaughtered and committed countless atrocities, and yet Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, has that bit of Padme in him. There's still good in him. Even though it's so faint, there's still good in him. And I know 30 years has passed in between, and many people have brought that up to me. Well, a lot of times you characters go on a journey and it's off screen. But that's part of my point. If all of that development is off screen or told in a quick backstory, you invite people to disagree with that version of the character because we haven't seen that progression. And the progression that we do see, basically that there is a small amount of evil in Ben Solo, that Luke Skywalker would take out his lightsaber and for even a second think, I'm going to take out him and I could stop all of this. I recognize that you might think that would be a good idea, but to me, that is a fundamental misunderstanding of Luke Skywalker and who that character is, because if you're asking me, that man, Luke Skywalker, doesn't think for a second to kill his nephew. Every part of him, in my opinion, if you were going to go off of me, would see that in him and bring that about. Hey, when I was your age, I dealt with this with my father. There was so much anger in him. And for even a second, I kind of know what you're going through because we have the scene on the bridge of Return of the Jedi of him lashing out in anger. And almost for a second, you get this feeling like, oh my gosh, is he going to turn? Is that the dark tone that Lucas kind of previewed for Return of the Jedi? But no. And I understand kind of what you're going through. I do. And then you bring him back. If there's anyone who can do that, it's Luke. And yet you mean to tell me that because of this, because of that one moment of failure, if we're supposed to take that and agree with it, he would go off and exile himself on this island and basically leave the mess that he created to everyone else, to his sister, to his brother-in-law, to the galaxy? I'm sorry, it doesn't work for me. And that's why I don't like Luke Skywalker, guys. But if you guys, I mean, a lot of people, there are people out there who absolutely needed to see this Luke Skywalker, and I've spoken with them who have said maybe your heroes aren't all there. Maybe they're not always going to be on their A game 100% of the time. There's going to be moments of weakness, and yeah, I get that. I get that there are times when that is possible, but for me, you can't. Luke Skywalker is absolutely the wrong character to do that for. And I don't necessarily blame Rian Johnson here because I watched the director's commentary on a few scenes of this, and he said the first thing I had to do was figure out why Luke Skywalker was on that island. Meaning J.J. Abrams put him there and had no answer for why he was on that island, which also then tells me that there was no overall story structure for this trilogy, which again, I mean,
mystery box.
this right here is where it hurts it for me,
When-
and a bunch of other things.
When you let directors tell the story, they're going to tell their story.
Yes.
And when you have the idea at the time was 3 different directors telling this, you're gonna want like a script or a Bible, they call it, serious Bible. Where are we going? What's the direction?
Yes.
They really felt like they had none of that for this. And you get, okay, J.J. Abrams sets up a ton in that last movie, and then boom, Rian Johnson here. And I love that you highlight Luke's story and how you talk about Luke's story. I think you explained it very well, and the flaws you pointed out were really good. But I don't know. I kind of fall in that camp where our heroes are not saviors, right? Fundamental to being human is we suck. For all have sinned and fallen short. That's what I believe. And Luke Skywalker is no exception. I fully believe that in that moment he could have done that. And I see, you hate to see your character down bad. You do, especially Luke Skywalker. And I'm not going to say that this was the best direction, because I think no one in here believes that this is the absolute best direction for this character to go. But I see where Rian Johnson was going with it and what he was telling and what he was doing. And narratively, a lot of it worked really well for me. As far as Luke Skywalker as a whole, maybe we're upset by it. But in the context of this movie and what he does for Rey and kind of pushing her along in this story, yeah, I love how you highlight, you're just going to abandon Han Solo, you're just going to abandon Leia, abandon the whole, it's like you light the fuse and you walk away. Yeah, but that just shows me how, like you said, Luke would never ignite that lightsaber. And Luke knows that too. And that hurt him so much to where he had to go in exile. And I love the concept of him. He shuts himself off from the Force. He kills that. It's just like in Spider-Man 2, when Tobey Maguire doesn't want to be Spider-Man anymore and the powers leave him. We don't get Luke being as glorious as we get Spider-Man being at the end of that movie. We don't get that. There are problems with this movie, and I think Luke could be one of them. It works enough for me.
Yeah, I love how the opportunities that you get when you have this Luke who's ashamed of himself, who's ashamed of the Jedi, who is afraid of beginning this next generation of Jedi now, it expands this opportunity to, one, include Yoda to come back and give us some words of wisdom about the Jedi scrolls and the original texts, and how Rey knows she can figure this stuff out. It's not, we don't have to play by the books. We don't have to say, oh, they're evil now, they're gonna be evil later. And Yoda was there to reinvigorate that hope that Luke had in the original trilogy that Ben was talking about, where he saw that little ounce of light in Darth Vader, right? And I love how they get to talk about the Jedi Council and how it wasn't right? No other Star Wars movie has...
It's like the Jedi are the biggest failure.
Yeah, they haven't talked about that in any of the other Star Wars movies. And without this version of Luke, without this flawed version of Luke, you wouldn't be able to get that. You wouldn't be able to get a character arc in this movie for Luke if he was just like, all right, I need to go help Kylo Ren this whole movie. And that's him, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the most interesting way you can take the character. Because if he already had completed his arc, he had no character development left, then why is he in the movie at all? And you got to think of it from a writing perspective. That's why he's different. That's why Poe is so against Holdo. That's why, Rey is so insistent on changing Luke this whole movie, is because that's what makes a movie interesting. That's what makes the writing competent. Maybe not lore-wise, it might not work very well if you break it down that way, but it opens it up to where if you wanted to revisit his time as a Jedi Master with Kylo Ren, you can fill that in. That's the only mystery box that we get in this movie, I feel. And I think it opens it up for enough. I love Luke's character in this.
Yeah, you love it?
I like it.
That's
I like
cool.
it a lot.
Yeah.
I like how Rey doesn't feel as Mary Janey as I thought she would be.
Yeah,
She does train, and
Dude.
actually, Daisy Ridley was kind of a Mary Jane in real life. Do you hear about the
Mary Sue.
Oh, Mary Sue. Mary
Yeah.
Sue. She was just able to pick up the lightsaber training in like 4 hours compared to what they thought it was going to be like a week.
Dude,
According to the
here's your
director.
choreography for this. Oh yeah, I can do that in 4 hours. Are you guys kidding me?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, I don't know. Apparently, it was pretty complicated stuff, but yeah, I mean,
How do you feel about, because I feel like a lot of people would sit differently with Luke's story if he was alive at the end of the movie. Is that wrong, Ben?
For me,
Yeah.
I don't think so.
No.
I don't, because it's the reason he's there.
Mhm.
Why is he on that island? Why did he close himself out? That's what I'm mad about. I think
Why is he
his
on the
death
island?
in a different movie with a different script, I think his death is beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, but because of where he's been in that movie, I feel nothing. It's the death of Luke Skywalker. Oh yeah, it's a callback, but that's all I feel. Because what's he done this movie? You know, like he's doomed the galaxy. You know, like I don't put all of that on Luke, but
Yeah.
you light the fuse and you walk away.
Yeah.
So it's like, and you highlight the writing perspective. You have to look at it from a writing standpoint. There's a million ways you can take Luke's character and make it interesting, other than making it so that he's on this island because he failed. You could say that he's on this island protecting something, keeping something locked up, or something along those lines. Something along those lines. You don't have to take the most hopeful character in the galaxy and make him depressed and downtrodden and make Rey the reason he comes back, or a reason he comes back. And also, when he does come back, he's just kind of snarky and he's not apologetic. He does apologize to Ben, and yet it's mixed with "see you around, kid," or a little snarky. Like, dude, this is your fault, man. Like, this guy is clearly so unstable because of you. And yet you sit there and you, like, I get it from a writing perspective. And if this is your only Star Wars movie, yeah, all right. That's a good way to make all the character dynamics interesting. But it's because it's Luke Skywalker. That's the character you're messing with.
a counter argument I have to have for that is he says that "see you around, kid" part before he really cares about Rey. At that point, he thinks, "Oh, here comes the rebellion again. They're trying to offer me the lightsaber. They want me back in the fight." And he doesn't want the fight. He wants to be out of it.
Talking about to Kylo, right?
He says that to Kylo at the end. "See you around, kid."
Oh,
right before he
yeah. I
disappears.
thought you were talking about.
Yeah, no.
Well, then
that's what I'm talking about.
I'll talk about Octu then a little bit, and I like how he doesn't know that Rey is a Force user yet, or strong with the Force at all, until she finds the Jedi books, the Jedi text, and he's like, "Who are you?" I was sent by the Resistance to pick you up. No. Who are you? That was cool to me. I liked how he felt very master, like Jedi master mindset returned in that moment, and the switch flicked for me. It's like, oh, all right, so he's back.
So here's my question, guys. Why send Rey? Why send Rey of all
That was Luke's
people?
question.
Why would they send her and not Leia? I'm asking you guys from a writing perspective.
Well,
Why would you have Rey there?
J.J. Abrams did that. Can you blame this movie for
No,
that?
I'm not. I'm
Yeah.
saying, as a story group,
Uh-huh.
why would you have Rey be the one to come and try and bring Luke back, a person who he doesn't know at all? I get you have R2 and Chewbacca there,
Chewbacca's there. Yeah.
but they don't do anything.
Maybe
have
because
more,
he
maybe
was
have them
given
do more,
or-
but
well, she was given Luke's lightsaber. So
Yes.
and Maz Kanata said,
It calls to
"Yeah,
you.
it calls to you." So logically, if the lightsaber called to her, then she must bring it to
There's
Luke.
something special
If
about
that's
her.
it's not like they were looking for. Sure, if Leia went, maybe there could have been some convincing.
and that
But Chewie also went.
you want to talk about an interesting story right there? You get that friction between siblings, between Leia and Luke.
Yeah.
What's going on? You did this to my son.
Yeah.
Maybe you get some of that involved. And holy cow, maybe it becomes a little bit more interesting. And I'm not saying like maybe one day, this is not irredeemable. I will say that. You just have to give me more of why Luke is on this island.
The Mando Grogu movie. We're gonna get CGI Luke slicing it up. Yeah.
We're gonna Princess Leia back, CG.
So you say it's not unredeemable?
No.
Where Luke is?
I think with Clone Wars, with backstory, you fill in that time and you flesh out the decisions there, and maybe you add, maybe you do a slight retcon there. It's just the reason he exiles himself is because he almost killed his nephew.
Yeah.
That's to me, that's terrible.
It's regret. Yeah.
Well, it's not just that he almost killed his nephew. It's that he was afraid of creating the Sith Order instead of the Jedi Order again.
And if you exile yourself, you're only ensuring that because he's already on the dark side. That to me, that's
maybe it's his lawful good nature that he knows that if he were given the opportunity, he wouldn't do it because he already tried once and he couldn't. He didn't have the strength to do it.
And I don't know, it goes back onto him being a mere man, right? He's a human. He's not, as much as I like to try to convince you all he is, he's not the chosen one, right? And Ben, I just want to ask, so your favorite Jedi of all time, is it Anakin?
Yes.
Okay. So Anakin famously screws up terribly. What is it that endears you to Anakin? And that Luke can't get the same grace in this? Because Anakin not only ignites his saber on a trainee Jedi, Anakin kills entire Jedi Temple, starts this 20 years of the reign of the Empire, resulting in countless deaths. And at the end of the day, after everything Anakin did, he can be redeemed. What stops you from Luke also being human in that way?
And I love that. I love that question because the reason I can see it there is because they spend a whole movie, a whole trilogy, and a TV show, if you want, telling you why he turns, telling you how he gets to that point, giving reason after reason of why this kid has been screwed by slavery to Watto, slavery to the Jedi, and then slavery to the Empire. His whole life, he's only wanted one thing, and that's to belong and to be loved. And he has never felt that anywhere other than when he was with his mom and that brief time with with Qui-Gon Jinn, and when he's with Padme. And because that element of him is threatening to be lost, to die, he goes through all of this to try and prevent that, and even still, he can't do it. So you see that there is that slight goodness in Anakin Skywalker all the way through. It's just you make a bunch of bad decisions, and I'm not condoning murdering the Jedi and starting an empire here, but I see why that happened.
But the Empire is pretty cool.
It is. Long live the Empire. And so, and then in there is that slight goodness in him, and you can see it there. Padme says it, Luke says it, and then you do get that redemption at the end, and it's honestly one of the most beautiful things about Star Wars. You get that at the end, and then he goes away, so you're not able to be left in that. But you see why Anakin turns. To me, it makes the most sense. And they give you a small morsel of it in The Last Jedi. So maybe if they were to go back and tell more of that story, give more context behind those decisions, then maybe you've got me. Then maybe we can talk about this. But right now, it's
okay.
And
it's
maybe that was in the extra 40 minutes that he had to cut out of this movie. Because he cut out 40 minutes, and this is still the longest Star Wars movie to date. And maybe that was I would have loved to see some Kylo Ren Luke action in the Jedi training stuff.
Oh yeah,
that would have been cool. Like what they did in Ahsoka with Anakin and Obi-Wan. That'd been so cool. Just little glimpses of that to see that they had a prior relationship. Few lines, maybe a little bit of training. That's all we needed.
Right.
And then it would have probably solved a couple of those arguments you had.
And I gotta say, like as much as I love seeing Yoda here, and I
He looks kinda
know
wonky.
He looks weird, yeah. Like,
doesn't he?
Even in the theater when I saw him, like,
Wait a
I had to
minute.
do a double take. Why does he look like that?
But the reveal of Yoda being in there, you see him in the corner. I remember my theater cheered.
Oh yeah, yep.
I mean,
did too.
it's Yoda. It's Yoda.
But why Yoda? Why is Yoda the only Force ghost? And Luke and Leia later, the only Force ghost to appear. Why does Anakin, the chosen one, play no part in this story?
That
we
would have
know
been cool.
we know the behind the scenes because this was a time when the prequels were not well thought of, and they really kind of wanted to steer clear of that. I do like how Luke highlights the Jedi Order's failure here, but imagine if Anakin played a part in this story to either help Luke and have those scenes with him, or maybe even to help Kylo and say, "Hey, I've been there before."
Unfortunately, I just don't think there was enough room in this movie for it because they still had to fit in a Finn and Rose plot. That was,
and
they
then
still had to fit in the Kylo Ren and Rey stuff. And the movie isn't specifically about Luke. He is, at the end of the day, a B character. He's not one of the A characters.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we have to remember that. We have to remember we couldn't have spent all this time on Anakin because that wasn't the style at the time either. Nowadays, sure, yeah, they would have had a throwback character again. They would have done a Anakin thrown in there because they've already done it for Ahsoka.
But the sequels have always been about throwbacks ever since
But
The Force
not
Awakens.
prequel
We've been,
throwbacks.
yeah, absolutely. But it should have been. Well,
It could have
it
been.
could have been.
I'll say this:
Yeah.
because we've talked a good amount in this marathon on Force Ghost logic and how it works and how communicating with, because clearly Yoda appears there because up until that point he couldn't have. Luke had shut himself off from the Force, and we talked about how to communicate with Force Ghosts, it's a two-way street. You have to be right to communicate, and they also have to be coming at, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
and
or a three-way street with Snoke.
right,
Giving the Force.
We'll talk about that in a minute. But I feel like maybe there's something special about Yoda and Yoda's connection with the living Force that maybe the chosen one per se in that moment with Luke couldn't have connected with him because of where Luke was Force-wise. That would be my only defense to it, but it would have narratively, why isn't his dad there? Hey, Pop. Hey, son. It's something like that.
What's up, Darth?
What's up, Darth? But, Ben, I love everything you said about Luke. I think it makes total sense why you don't like him. For me, watching this movie, when I sat down for the 2.5 hour runtime of this, I was genuinely surprised with how much of Luke worked and connected with me.
Me too.
And I was ready. I've talked to you, Ben, about how I didn't like this direction before, but I was ready to not like this. But what Rian Johnson did is he endured me to not my character. And this isn't the Luke of Legends. It's not. And we can talk about that. It's kind of the multiverse effect. Can we have our cake and eat it too? This Luke exists, just not in this line of storytelling. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with that. Many people aren't. But I don't know. Do we have anything else to say about Luke? Because there's a lot Ben doesn't like about this movie, and we are just on Luke. And we are very far into this podcast.
One more
Good
thing I
point.
want to
Good
add,
point.
just in a general statement, is should we fault this movie for what it could have been or what it is?
I don't want to fault this movie. I want to fault the Disney story group, Lucasfilm story group, who put this trilogy together.
So Disney as a whole, how do we feel about Rian Johnson?
I like his movies.
I think he is a really great filmmaker. I think he's a really poor Star Wars storyteller.
Okay. Because I like Glass Onion. I like whatever the
good.
other one is, Knives Out.
Yep.
Poker Face he did.
Evil Golf Ball
Really
from
good.
Hell.
I watched Looper. I watched Looper earlier this year. I really like Looper.
You watch Brick?
I did not watch Brick.
Oh, okay. That was like his first big one.
But I don't
Indie
know.
film.
I like the guy. And going into this, I'm like, okay, what is this movie going to be? And I love that, Ben, you brought in all this extra world stuff. Makes sense. I get that. But I think when I sat down and watched this movie, a lot of this worked better than I was even ready to admit that it did. But a lot of it didn't. And something that I hated then, and still to this day, you just can't justify. We know going into this movie, R.I.P. Carrie Fisher, right? She's passed, and all the theories, okay. how are they going to write her out of the story? What are they going to do? And there's actually a really great scene when Kylo is flying up and he thinks he's like, you can tell he's connected to his mom. He knows.
Everyone in the theater is like, this is it.
This is it. And he doesn't do it. And you're like, okay, Kylo, wow. And then the two TIE fighters come by and they shoot, blowing it up. And it gives you that, okay, yeah, Leia had to die there. But Kylo didn't do it. There's still good in him. But then we cut back to Leia. And you get... I can't, like, can you justify this, Micah?
I can kind of.
It's just...
So we've seen crazy things with the Force before. Extended universe, there has been tons of Force stuff that I know nothing about. And
that was a great setup.
There's
tons of things, I guess. I don't know.
But why wouldn't the Force be able to do this? I mean, if it's it surrounds us, it flows through us. Why not? I mean, she is the son of the highest midichlorian, or the daughter of the highest midichlorian count, right? So Luke has it. My sister has it.
My father had it.
Yeah. Why wouldn't Leia?
That's not how the Force works.
Is it unreasonable to assume that she had zero Force training in the past 30 years?
No, we actually know how much Force training she's had in the past 30 years because Rise of Skywalker actually lets us know.
We're not there yet,
Hey,
Ben.
Calm down.
We're not on peak yet.
But we do know, I want to say.
Yeah, I think it looks weird, but it's quick enough.
Weird.
And it gives you enough. It gives you this coma-induced Leia that sits there in your mind for the rest of the movie, and then gets to. It's like the mystery of, all right, did Leia really want Holdo to be captain? Was Holdo's mission here the same thing that Leia wanted? You know, because Poe is trying to fight for what he thinks that Leia wants. Holdo is fighting for what she thinks Leia wants. Yeah. But they're not communicating together, right? And that's the tension that you get. And I really like that, actually. It didn't work the first time, but knowing how it plays out in this watch, I liked it.
To Ben's point, if you want Leia out of the story so you can introduce that dynamic, which I think is, I like seeing Poe wrestle for power. But if you want Leia out of the story, couldn't you just bring her to the island with Luke and have her, she can't communicate with the Resistance. Do some good character stuff there, as opposed to having her just idle the whole movie.
I like it because then you get the opportunity for Luke and Leia to communicate through the Force. There was that one scene where Luke is,
right?
I don't know, communicating.
And
through
that
the
would
Force.
be my one.
And she's in the coma bed.
My one, that's why my one pushback to why I don't think she should have died in that space scene, because she wouldn't have got her closure with Luke. Mm-hmm. But also, it just felt,
I like that closing scene.
Right. It felt narratively right there, and it felt just real world right, because we know next movie how they have to deal with Carrie Fisher's passing is a lot less smooth than this would have been. So. Yep. But Ben, Mary Poppins, her in the space.
Even in the theater, I thought that was stupid, man. It was stupid.
Like, what?
It does look stupid, but did you see the foreshadowing when she goes through the big ship and it's the exact same path that the hyperspace ship goes through? And I showed that to Parker, and he was like, I didn't know that happened. I was like, yeah, let me rewind it. Boom, look.
Did you watch this, Parker?
No. He walked in an hour into the movie. And I had just passed that scene where the ship goes hyperspeed through it, I think. I don't remember where it was, but yeah, I had to rewind and show him, and he was amazed that there was thought put into this movie beyond just
some
thrown together.
Yeah.
There was thought put into it. The right train is what's up for debate.
It's up for debate, yeah.
That's the thing. That's what's up for debate. I think it would have been nice for her to end this way, but I just think that at the end of the day, not making those characters a main part of your story across the trilogy really hurts the potential that this had, and really hurts the story overall, I think. Yeah. How do you not have them all together in one scene? How is there one scene between Luke and Leia at the very end? Keep in mind, Luke's not even really there, and
he's there in Force.
And it's just, what happened here? Why is Leia why was the original idea for this? Why was she sidelined the whole movie pretty much? And I get that they can't go back on that after her passing, which this movie was filmed. The first initial film was completed before her passing. So great. Okay, it's done now. But why was the original idea to have her sidelined the whole movie for what is, in my opinion, the dumbest plot point of this movie, which is the Holdo plot? I know you like it, Micah, but I'm not. I'm criticizing.
Used to be a Holdo hater, a double H, if you will.
See, my point is with that. Why does she not say anything? Why does she not reveal the plan? They're all on the same team here, man.
She was agreeing with Leia's demoting of Poe and only saw him as a hotshot, know-it-all kid who thinks he can just do whatever he wants. And, who cares if a couple rebels die because we killed a dreadnought? Like, we took down this dreadnought, and that was a huge thing. That was the whole intro, this establishing of Poe's negligence for the lives of the rebels and just the mission-focused thing.
Yeah.
And, you get Leia. You get Leia showing up, and she's like, well, we lost a lot of lives. And then Poe immediately turns around, permission to, get in an X-Wing and blow up some stuff. She's like, yeah. So she's on both sides. She kind of plays the middle. But Holdo is the opposite. She is save as many lives as we possibly can, objective later.
But why not just tell that to Poe? My thing is, he goes through all of this trouble on that ship and gets them into a lot of trouble too, because there is a lack of communication. I understand that he's a hotshot pilot, but why don't you tell him, hey, we're going to leave the ship here and we're all going to go down to the planet. We're going to sneak away. That way we're going to save as many lives. There's no way we're going to get them. It doesn't make sense.
In the real military, wouldn't Admiral tell, what role was he demoted to?
Captain.
Captain?
He was a commander.
Would he tell, would she tell a captain? I don't know.
I would tell the lowliest soldier, hey, we actually have a plan to survive. Because everyone on that bridge, it's why they have a mutiny. What's this chick doing? They have a mutiny because she doesn't communicate.
I think that was...
And I get narratively. It's all there for Poe's character.
Yeah, and I think it works really well for the audience because we're supposed to hate Holdo. We want our hero Poe, who was established in the first movie, to be an excellent pilot, an excellent resistance fighter. We want him to win, right? We want him to get his way because we've seen time and time again that this hotshot guy, he comes in, he saves the day, and, a couple rebels' lives are lost, but we win, Death Star's destroyed, happy ending, curtains close, right? That's not what Rian Johnson wanted this movie to be. And he's trying to send this message of your heroes aren't always the best decision makers. That's what happened with Luke. That's what happened with Poe.
And yet again, Rian Johnson proves that he can do it in a better way. There is a better way to do it. There is a better way to show that example, that theme. And when you look at it outside of that point, the writing is there, but it doesn't make sense. You're just left frustrated intentionally with Holdo. Why don't you share and you can't use I didn't want to tell anyone because I'm going to use self-sacrifice to take out the dreadnought. That wasn't the original plan. She thought that up after they were all gone. So people have tried to use that argument in the past. You can't use that because that wasn't the plan. Maybe that works if that is the plan, but it's not.
I like how she was a respected general going into it, or admiral going into it, because Poe was like, wait, you're Holdo? You mean this battle Holdo?
Yeah.
Like the one that you destroyed the other people? Like, that's crazy.
I definitely saw you in Jurassic Park. I don't know what.
I definitely saw you in Marriage Story. You were a good
lawyer.
lawyer.
What you're doing. I don't know. I think it shows just the desperation of the resistance at this point where no one's thinking straight. No one's making good choices. This is the first time we've had a Star Wars movie pick up directly after the last one. There's no time jump. There's nothing. It's just, boom, we roll right into this one. And I think...
Unless you count Rogue One and 4.
Right. Yeah, Rogue One and 4, sure. But we wouldn't count that. There's like 7 right into 8. I think that's really cool. And I like we talk about, like, you can compare it to Empire where the Empire's chasing Millennium Falcon the whole movie. You feel that in this movie. And I know, sure, the First Order technically shut your brain off. They could have taken out that ship. They could have hyper speeded forward, came back, cornered. They could have stopped it. But narratively, I think I like it. I like the way it works, and I like. I don't. What? How do we feel about being able to track through hyperspace?
I mean, this is one of the last movies in Star Wars.
I think
timeline,
that's sick. I think that's such a cool concept.
I think it's a tech that was developed and it's established in this movie that Rose knew that it was possible, and like, whoa, like this is
the idea of
edge
it was,
of the bleeding edge of technology at the time, which is cool to see new tech in Star Wars movies that like people are like, whoa, I didn't know this was possible before, but with this new equipment we can do that, and that creates a whole new threat in the galaxy. If the First Order has access to this on a huge fleet, they're unstoppable.
So in Star Trek Into Darkness, J.J. Abrams, shout out him. He did the last Star Wars movie, but Star Trek's been around way longer. They're a form of hyperdrive or whatever. What do we call it when you jump?
Hyperspace.
Hyperspeed.
Yeah. The Star Trek's universe version of that is more. Oh shoot, I forgot the term. Warping. No, it's warping.
Warping.
They warp, and in Star Trek Into Darkness, they can track. Yeah, they can track through. They can track warping. So it's kind of that same idea brought into this. So I thought that was pretty funny because I just rewatched those and oh yeah, that's how this works.
I like that it's new tech.
Yeah,
I like because you have this 22,500 or 25,000 years of galactic history.
Yeah.
It has to exist now.
It has
to be new.
Like, what other new tech have you heard of in the Star Wars franchise? The tech hasn't advanced much in the episode 1 to episode 6. And I mean, you get like the T-15 Skyhopper. Oh, since the new one came out, the last one just doesn't sell as well. And I think that might be another part of Star Wars that Rian Johnson's trying to tackle is, yeah, I mean, this is a lived-in world. Things are advancing.
I really liked it. I think the reveal plays really well in the movie, and it's like
it adds to the stakes.
Throughout all of Star Wars, what has been the get out of jail free card? Hit the hyperdrive. You can't do it this time.
Mm-hmm. And that's another part of Rian Johnson's flipping everything on his head.
The threat, it's so cool, and I like the setup. I like them chasing you feel the desperation of the resistance, and you're going to see it in the next movie why when we talk about it next week. But they send out the distress signal and they say they heard, but no one's coming.
Mm-hmm.
No one's coming to help us. And it's like, once again, the theme of Star Wars is hope. You feel like there's no hope, and I think this movie captures that really well. And something I was very surprised with in this rewatch was I remember, okay, they do our legacy characters. They don't do them too well. Leia's really pushed in the back. Luke, he's not in too much of this movie, but what he is, people really hate. Han's dead. Han's out of the picture. But what I was super surprised by was Rey.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Chewie.
No, I always love Chewie. But
Porgs.
I don't know, how do we feel about Rey? I liked Rey a ton in this movie.
This watch, I liked Rey. I think she wasn't the biggest character arc in this, but to move the plot, I think she does more for this movie than more realistic plot decisions than she does in episode 7.
I don't know how much of that hangs on how I didn't really care for her in the last one and how much Daisy Ridley just pours into Rey in this movie, but I found myself endeared to her, and I really love the Kylo and Rey, meeting. That's so...
Yeah.
What a cool dynamic.
They used an original wipe from episode 5, like the original film frames, to have that, the fade in, fade out in the cockpit. That was an original thing from episode 5.
Oh, cool.
To mirror the connections that they had.
Ben's bubbling. Ben's
Or
the
was it
stew.
episode 4?
We've turned the heat up to high. The pot is boiling.
Yeah, Snoke creating the force link between them. It adds another layer to the Force that we didn't know about before, that you can do that sort of thing. I don't know.
I like it too.
Ooh. No.
I take it all back. I hate this movie. Rey and Kylo, trash.
I hate a lot of this, but that specifically, and you're
Oh,
right,
cool.
Ethan.
Wow.
No, I was gonna do
That-
that. I was gonna do that.
What?
I don't know.
Give me your
that-
fingers. Give me.
Oh yeah, when they do that over the and Luke catches him. Yeah, dude.
He's like, "What are you doing?"
I like it. I like that. The Force when it's used like that. There are some liberties that the sequels take with the Force. Some that I'm not happy with, but this one really adds a really
It's
interesting.
very rooted
dynamic.
in what's
Yes.
already been established.
Two things that I don't mind about the sequels is the Daisy Ridley and Rey, and Adam Driver and Kylo
I'm
Ren.
getting tingles.
How
Ben's
much
talking
they
positive on the
how much
sequels.
they pour into their characters specifically. I really like it. And that one element of this movie, I find myself actually pretty, and I'm by no means a Reylo fanboy because that went all over the place after this movie.
You feel it though. You
But
feel
I'm not gonna
something.
lie.
Yeah.
Like Rey and Kylo Ren, and I like how you highlight Daisy, how much she pours into Rey. Like that's Rey right there. Daisy Ridley is Rey more than anyone else.
And I think what this movie did a really cool job at is a complaint was last movie, okay, Rey, how is she using the Force like this? She does not know what the Force is. And that's continued in this movie. She has no idea what the Force is, but for some reason, it calls to you. For some reason, and we don't get it explained in this movie. The next one, who knows how well they'll explain it on a rewatch. But I kind of find that so cool where we talk about the chosen one, how Anakin's the chosen one, where for some reason with Rey, the Force is working in Rey, whether she is doing anything about it or not. Something is bubbling over and she can't do anything about it. I find that really interesting where it's not really her developing these skills, but the Force working through her in some way.
Yeah, and that's also evident in the throne room when Snoke is explaining away some of the critiques of Episode 7, where he's like, "You lost to her when she has never held a lightsaber before."
Buffoon. Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool.
And then he goes and he breaks the helmet and
Yeah, you can tell that quite a few of the writing choices are based on critiques of
directly,
Episode 7.
yeah, directly at it.
And sometimes it hurts.
Yeah.
Because why do they spend so much time on Rey's parents, on who they are? You know, it wasn't really a part of Force Awakens. It's hinted that she's got some kind of backstory, but I think, and this is him understanding where fans were at, because everyone and their mother made a video, what's Rey's past. So
Does
they
she
spend
know?
almost like...
Does she know?
Exactly. They spend almost too much time, and it feels kind of strange how much they're like, who are her parents? I want to see... Like she even says, I want to see my parents.
Oh.
And yet later on it's revealed that she knows who her parents are. They were deadbeats. And... Again, like Rise of Skywalker just messes with it's what makes this trilogy feel so muddled.
The canon is
yeah.
that she was hidden on Jakku to escape the Emperor's grasp.
By the Emperor's cloned son and wife.
Yes, yeah.
The cloned son's wife. Yes. So it's weird. It's a weird little... Palpatine canonically did not have sex. That's not their...
Sorry, guys.
But the cloning stuff that's going on in Bad Batch.
Didn't want to burst that bubble for you.
This is what's going on. Yeah. So Emperor was not getting busy. He just created a clone of himself and his son.
Remains abstinent.
Yeah, because that is, even regardless of how you feel about this movie, the next one just takes what this did and just kind of flips
I am
it.
very excited to review Rise of Skywalker because all of the plot points I thought were in Rise of Skywalker were in this movie.
Oh, really?
I don't remember.
Except they fly now.
Exegol.
You thought they fly now was this movie.
Exegol was definitely
I'll tell you what, I thought Hux turned in this movie. I
thought so too.
I was waiting for Hux to do the stupid reveal. Oh,
I am a rebel too.
It's me.
Isn't it weird that they drop the Resistance title about halfway through the movie? After it's just like Rebel.
There's a few of those moments in this.
Only the First Order refers to them as rebels.
No, that's not true.
What? Like
even Holdo's last line is "So long, rebels" or whatever.
Right, but as far as like rebellion, the First Order calls them the rebellion. I think that because it's kind of just falling back into it. Okay, yeah, whatever. This is the same group, the rebels, the rebellion. Yeah, they have a cool, fancy new name on it, but these are rebels.
Kind of like the same way that we call them the Empire, even though they're the First Order. It's the same people, different name. I don't care.
There's a scene in this where Finn, Silver Stormtrooper,
Phasma.
Captain
right
Phasma
here,
says, right there, yep. She says, "You rebel," and he says, "Rebel scum," which is meant to be a great moment of clapping moment. Rebel scum from the original trilogy.
Oh, I thought it was.
But she dies.
Reference.
How does Finn? It takes me out of it because how does Finn know what rebel scum means? He wouldn't say that. It just is like it's Rian Johnson putting that in the movie for fans of the original trilogy, and maybe it wasn't Rian Johnson. Maybe it was an executive up at Disney being like, "Oh, he should say rebel."
Tell you
scum,
what, in the theater, I stood up, I clapped, I was hooting and hollering.
That's my problem.
It could have been
it's
a
too
John
on the
Boyega
nose, you know. It's too like this is a lived-in
Which
universe.
felt
you
like
know?
though that was the entire last movie.
Yeah.
So I was really refreshed revisiting
there
this
yet.
with how. No, I meant Force Awakens.
Oh, okay.
I was really refreshed with how I wasn't exhausted with the repetitiveness of this story. Yeah, it is flipped on its head, and it is very different. And I was kind of drawn to a lot of. I think the first 30 minutes of this movie is. I really like it. I think it's awesome.
The attack on the Dreadnought.
I love Poe and the Resistance bombers.
Rose's sister.
Yeah, we can talk about Rose in a minute, but how they set her character up as having the other half of that necklace, I think that's a really good setup because you see what Poe's mistake led to, how it led to this Rose's sister dying in this sacrifice, and I think that's a good setup. And I don't know. Let's talk about Rose.
And by extension, Finn, because those two are together most of this movie.
I feel like Finn doesn't have a ton after. So both of them have really good starts. Both of them, like she is an enthusiastic, rebel. What?
I meant to open this podcast with, "I'm just here to find Rey." That's what I meant to open with, and I forgot. But that is Finn's entire character.
Yeah, basically is.
He wakes up. Rey! Where's Rey?
I thought it was weird that when they got to Canto Bight, all he's doing is saying, "This is such a beautiful place.
Awesome.
This is awesome." Yeah. Like, was this written by a dude who loves to go to Vegas or something? Like, nothing about that planet looked beautiful to me. It was all very just
dark too. Like it wasn't even during daytime. Like,
wow, this is
just
beautiful.
a casino. Has Bro
what does
ever
that
seen
mean
a
about
casino
Finn's
before?
character? Like, what?
I guess he's been a stormtrooper all his life.
Yeah,
so maybe
Finn is not a character you're gonna find me. He has one great scene in this movie that Rose takes away, but
that is rough,
even in the
just go into it.
Even
now.
in the theater as he's flying into
people were
the
audibly
Death Star.
upset about that. Like people were getting up and.
But you're right. You start to feel it.
Like this is
it.
You know?
This is Star Wars.
But Rian Johnson once again flipping it on its head.
Oh,
it's the subverting of expectations, which makes this movie so interesting, though, because we wouldn't have had a thing to talk about. And this movie isn't about killing people. It's not about sacrifices. It's about saving as many lives as possible to be the hope of the galaxy.
All right, Micah, for a movie that's not about killing people, but they kill Snoke.
They do.
That.
Hang on. Before we get to Snoke,
I'm sorry.
We can't knock this scene because. So I went back because even now it's baffling that they made the decision. It's an honorable sacrifice. The stormtrooper who worked for the First Order is now on the rebellion. He's going to give his life for a better cause to save the resistance, the rebellion. And you feel that. The music changes. Williams makes you think that. And then Rose comes in and just destroys it, which I got to say, how do you not know you're going to die right then and there too? You know, like you literally crashed. They're going super fast. So she crashes that.
How does she get? I don't care.
I know, right? How does she come back and then do that? Like how fast
she hit the hyperdrive,
because
guys.
Finn's was already proven to be broken a little bit, not going as fast. And
so I was flabbergasted again. So I watched the director's commentary. I went into that scene, directly
Okay.
into that scene.
Yeah.
And Rian Johnson said, straight up, I thought he wasn't going to comment it because he was talking about something else. He's like, no, he has to say something about this. And he does. He says, so if I could make them think, if I could make my audience think for 1 second that Finn was going to die, I'd have done my job.
Huh.
And I was sitting there thinking, like, why would you do that? Again, it's the subverting of expectations. It's more of that.
That's
why
what he's doing.
Why was he so intent
Yeah.
on doing that with the 8th film in a franchise?
Mm-hmm.
There are times to do that, but not here. Not when you're making the middle chapter of a trilogy.
Yeah, it would be really interesting to see if he got, because initially he was going to get another movie. Is that correct? Or he was going to get a trilogy?
2 days. It was the day I was at my work and I read the article that this movie was the greatest thing. And I went outside and I was like, finally, Star Wars,
were
this
meditating
is
in
great.
the snow.
Because I read an article that Lucasfilm came out with 2 days before the film came out that said, we love this film so much. Kathleen Kennedy said this.
Yeah.
That we are going to give Rian Johnson a movie trilogy because this movie is so freaking good.
If he had a trilogy to be a his directorial style is so prevalent. And it's so strong.
Yep.
And I see your argument where it doesn't quite fit in this, 9-movie saga, but on its own, like that, I think that it adds to the complexity of what the Star Wars canon could be. And it opens the door to, like what Rogue One did. It opened the door to, now we can have a show like Andor. We know that audiences like that. We know what audiences like about The Last Jedi, and it's the complexity of these.
It's so big that Star Wars is huge. You can explore with other directors, but to Ben's point, is Disney decided to do it in their big staple Skywalker saga.
Very bold.
Yeah, with no preset script or direction. And I think that's what we keep falling back onto is, as much as we have to say about Rian Johnson, as much as we have to say about J.J. Abrams, it's Disney. It's the overall direction of this trilogy and the fact that they had none. Like, if someone were to sit down and write, okay, this is Rey, this is where we want her by the end of the trilogy. This is Kylo. This is where we want him by the end of the trilogy. This is Snoke. This is where,
There was none of that.
There wasn't any of that. And that's where you feel the suffering. Because I like this movie more than Force Awakens. Yep. I do. I think that there's so much in this movie that I was surprised by, that I really liked. And it felt new to me. Whereas Force Awakens felt very tired. Mm-hmm. But I do want to roll back onto Snoke. Snoke, even in the theater, when Snoke died, we talk about subverting expectations. This is a huge one. Your big bad for the trilogy is killed by Kylo Ren, which I think is an awesome choice for Kylo Ren.
Yes.
Super cool in that moment. But then you fall back onto, okay, what's your direction for the whole trilogy?
I like how he pulls out the together we can rule the galaxy as boyfriend and girlfriend kind of thing.
Yeah,
that was
right.
cool.
I went to, because I saw this twice
Motives are very clear.
in theaters, and I went, because I actually had pre-booked, before I saw it the first time, I pre-booked it with my youth group, and we went and saw it 2 days later on a Saturday. And me and my brother were the only ones who had seen it. And everyone in the theater, because they hadn't seen it, this was their first time, my youth pastor, all the kids, "So who do you think Rey is? Who do you think Rey is?" And I'm sitting there in my seat. And I've almost felt like bad because I knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And none of that was like, they weren't going to be satisfied.
Man,
after
I miss that feeling of seeing a movie opening night and then going again that same weekend. I haven't done that. And just being with the audience and just being ready for whatever, like Spider-Man No Way Home, we did that a couple times.
Yep.
Avengers, Endgame, and Infinity War, that these movies, that
Batman,
feeling.
I did that.
Right, like what's going to happen. And I feel like even with Dune, like Dune 2 was great, but no one was really like, okay, what is going to happen in this movie? Everyone liked Dune 2, but it didn't have that feeling that this had.
That's because you're dealing with Star Wars. You're dealing with Star Wars, folks, the most popular film franchise on the planet. People show up for Star Wars. They have preconceived notions of Star Wars, and as we found out on this podcast, Star Wars means something different to every single person. And yeah, some people are going to like this. That means some people are going to hate this movie. It just ends up, how much of a fan are you, and where are you a fan in this franchise? You know, and
you can have even if you have like a really good story, some people aren't going to like that. Or even if you have a really bad story, some people are going to like that. It's just, we learn this time and time again, different people connect with different things on different levels. And I don't know, this is especially prominent with this movie.
Guys, I feel like this is our most thorough podcast. I feel like we have
gotta
touched
say.
every plot point.
I will say,
Like, wasn't
I'm
that
more
cool?
impressed that we are having a civil discussion about this.
We were so productive today. You guys want to talk about lightsaber duels?
Well,
I know Ben
is there anything else?
Because that's
that
the
I
only
wanna
other thing
say
I
about
want to
this
talk
movie?
about is, I mean, the porgs were funny. I thought that they would be
Dang
more
it.
like minion
I
cringe.
have pork socks at home.
You know where your porg
No,
socks?
I have enough for all of us to wear one.
One?
No, like a pair.
Like, oh, okay. I was
Yeah.
going to say you have 3 porg socks.
Finn and Rose kissing each other is insanely stupid. Well, Rose kissing Finn, hate that so much.
Finn is very thrown off. He's just confused.
Why have that?
I think the writing for Finn and Rose was just a bit confused. Like he knew that he wanted to do the sacrifice fake out at the end. He knew that he wanted to do the leaving on the escape pod at the beginning. But I think the whole Canto Bite stuff was just thrown together a bit. And that I feel that's kind of evident.
I gotta say, positive. Love the Yoda scene. I gotta say, the lesson about failure and the greatest teacher failure is, Yoda says. Love that.
You noticed
In a different movie.
I noticed for the first time that the Jedi texts were in the Falcon.
They were not destroyed.
I thought they were in the little tree thing.
Well, and retroactively it works because Yoda says everything that are in those books Rey has
Right.
already. You know, and she has the books.
She has the
technically,
books.
So,
Rey,
so it works.
Yoda was punning on him that whole time.
Yeah. It just,
I was really also surprised with Luke's death and how I remember hating it in the theater. Like, really, that's how you kill Luke? Because to me, it would play very different if he's still alive by the end of the movie. Like, he's just drained. But when it cuts back to Rey, so yeah, Luke, he's looking at the sun, very reminiscent of A New Hope, and he just lets himself go to the Force. And it cuts back to Rey, and she's talking to Leia. It's like, it didn't feel painful. It felt peaceful and purposeful. And to me, I just was reminded of when Obi-Wan looks back at Luke in A New Hope. And Obi-Wan, yes, there's so much training that Obi-Wan needs to do with Luke. So much. The galaxy is in crumbles. Like in the same way where Luke has left the First Order reigning with Kylo, Obi-Wan did the same thing where he's left the Empire reigning with Anakin. And still in that moment, he chooses to leave it all behind because whatever the Force is for some reason willing Obi-Wan to die and let Luke go on and train. I felt the same way with Luke in this moment where, yes, there's so much more he could teach Rey, but he feels like it's time to go. And the Force is calling him. I don't know, I felt this movie felt like the Force was very prominent and in control. And we saw it, maybe it's because we just saw Rogue One and we saw that the Force controls everything more than we think. I don't know, I felt that in this movie. And I don't know, I was ready to hate on Luke, and I was really endured to a lot of his story.
comedy elements in this movie don't work for me.
It's in that it's in the era of the MCU.
It
You
is.
get the MCU humor. I know people hate on the Poe your mama joke.
Hate
but
that.
I thought that
hate
was
it.
so funny.
I watched it twice. It was so funny.
It's very subtle. It's like it's something about your mom. General hugs.
Yeah, they don't utilize Oscar Isaac as much as they should have in this trilogy, but I think the opening with him is really strong.
I really like. I'll talk about him in a little bit, but I really like his arc.
Like, it's one X-Wing? And they just starts going crazy.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Which is a reference to the Mandalorian.
Or you could say
One
Mandalorian's
X-Wing?
Yeah. I mean, I've said my main beats about this. I think this movie fails, but in my opinion,
Yeah.
we can definitely move on to
Yeah,
the other
lightsaber
segments of the
duels.
shows. I mean, all those main topics that we talked about: Snoke, Finn and Rose, Poe's character arc with Admiral Holdo, Rey and Kylo, Luke, Leia. You know, I want to know your thoughts too. We want to know your thoughts.
Benicio del Toro.
That's another one.
Yeah.
You know, the collector.
Yep.
For-
Making his appearance.
For a lot of these characters, you can be a Star Wars purist, and there are things that you are very right in disagreeing with Luke and character decisions with the generals and with Poe and with how Kylo reacts to things and how Snoke is killed right away. Those are all very divisive things. This is a divisive movie. It creates discourse. But to say that it's bad, I feel, is a disservice to the movie.
It's a good. Well, I don't even know if
This
I'd say
was
it's
the
a
first
good
one-
film, but I would say this is a bad Star Wars story.
This is the first movie where I heard coming out of the theater, this is a great movie, just not a good Star Wars movie. That was one argument I heard a lot.
Even the good movie element, like this movie sets up for you to not take seriously every plot point that happens. Right from the moment Leia gets back on the ship, which how does she get back on the ship when they open it up and it's
The
into
Force.
space? I don't know, whatever.
The Force.
You're not supposed to think about that, I guess. Leia not dying in that moment, initially, that's the first subversion, you know? And then it keeps going. Snoke dies right away. And you're like, what? Rey, your parents, they were nobody. They're nobody. And she's crying like she knows. And you're like, what? There's so many of those moments that are like, wait, what? And it's like
Luke chucking the lightsaber. Yeah.
that's the first subversion
Yeah.
moment.
Yep.
That is right there.
Yeah.
And from that point on, you're like, how seriously can I take a
It
character
sets the
death?
tone, though.
You know, yes, but why the tone for the 8th film in a franchise, the middle chapter in a trilogy? How do you create cohesion there? And also the decision to have this set, you know, minutes, hours after the Force Awakens. Star Wars has always been broad, and now we have 2 movies in this trilogy that focus on 3, 4, 5 days. You know, so not much can happen, not much can evolve, and yet the movie wants to make us think that, you know, so much has happened since then. I mean, Starkiller Base blew up. But you mean to tell me that every single rebel cell was on those 7 planets that the Starkiller Base blew up? Why is there so few rebels? Resistance left.
Resistance fighters.
You know? Why is that the case? It begs so many
Maybe
questions.
there's not so few. They're just waiting until the next movie
Maybe they
to
ran
show
out of
up.
hope.
But
And-
there are more of us.
Yes. But like the subversion works if you're telling a standalone story, but not when you're telling, and that from a movie perspective, I don't like that. But I mean, there's a billion things I could say that Star Wars wise it doesn't work. But yeah, I just happen to not like either one.
You know what else subverts expectations is
No
Rey
luck.
and Kylo teaming up in a throne room fight.
Love it.
You love it? I like it. Parker is a renowned sword fighter.
Well, if you slow-mo this thing,
I
it does
guess
get a
it
little
doesn't look
whack.
that great.
The opening, if you slow-mo that, it looks terrible.
Yeah.
But I think the rest of it works really well. And in the context of, holy crap, they just killed Snoke. And for the first time you felt there's no bad guy. Is Kylo good? Is Rey bad? Are they in this middle ground now?
It's a duel
Really cool.
of the fates.
We hadn't seen that yet in Star Wars.
Yeah.
The bad guys teaming up with the good guys. It's always been so stark. And now it's like, are we about to... That's why, if they would have taken a different direction with 9, I think Last Jedi would be a lot better looked
It's
upon.
hard.
Like,
'Cause
that's what makes it so hard, right?
You have we'll talk about it next week, but you have Force Awakens set it up. This subverts all that, kind of sets some cool things in motion, but then it's kind of jerked right back to, okay, let's just make it connect with my movie, my first movie.
Yeah.
But I think that's what they wanted, and
Yeah.
it's interesting to see Disney like change because you said they were hot on this movie. They were ready to go. Okay, let's give Rian Johnson a trilogy, and then they saw all the fan discourse, and they went, actually, we need to bring Abrams back for the third one. So it really highlights how Disney had no idea what they were doing and how they couldn't even stick to what they had committed to. They had to follow what the vast majority of fans were saying. And we know that fans don't always tell the right story. If George Lucas had listened to the fans when he was doing the prequels, that'd be a completely different trilogy.
Yeah.
And I love the sentiment. People always say, give the sequels 20 years and then we'll talk. See how people feel about these in 20 years. Because the sentiment when the prequels came out was hate, 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 hate. Same with these. So I don't know, it'll be fun.
But I don't think it's going to happen because
You could say
the
that.
story is so
I don't think the fans
jumbled.
will let it happen. That's my take on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think that the ones,
fair, yeah.
the Star Wars fans that'll live on are the Star Wars apologists, and they'll be the ones that have brought out the good in the prequels, that have pointed out that yes, there is good to be seen here. Yes, there is good to be seen in the sequels. Not everything is trash in there, and what's not trash is ranking this throne room fight to
Yeah,
get us
that's
back
right.
on track. Where do you guys think we'll put this? I'm thinking around this area. Around this
So
episode 7
we
fight.
know lightsabers don't meet in this movie. There's no clashing of lightsabers. But this, I mean, we have Traitor from The Force Awakens in here, and we have Noah versus Tarek in here from the Ewok film.
You got to have this one.
So we got to have this. I also think there's a quick duel between Rey and Luke
there is
on the planet.
not a lightsaber fight, but
No,
it is a fight.
They both have staffs. So do we want to throw that in there?
That's the same level as Noah Tarek.
Just
It is.
above. I would say it's better than Noah v. Tarek.
I would say so too.
But
I would
that's
say
it.
it's
That's it.
Yeah, go-
better than Obi-Wan and Vader.
Holy crap!
Go
No, you
go
have-
right above Noah versus
Yeah.
Tarek with that.
That's where you got to go.
Okay, I'm cool with that.
Go right above that.
Yeah.
As for the throne room,
8? Yeah, episode 8.
like that's the thing. I don't watch it slowed down. You could critique the crap out of it if you
Yeah.
watch it slowed down, but I don't think anyone notices it just sped up fine and having
I thought
it be
it was
a quick duel.
It
And
was
then you have
all
the
right,
curtain burning in the background.
That was
I
cool.
think It's pretty cool.
which symbolizes the burning of the First Order, and it reveals this big window, and that was cool. And
I don't mind. Do we want it right there, or are we just kind of plopping it there because that's where we plopped
I just plopped it there because I thought it was not as
like
good
it.
as episode 7, but maybe a little better than Grievous, maybe a little less than Grievous.
And I think you do get a little giddy seeing Kylo. Oh, and we got to talk about when she throws him the lightsaber.
Yeah.
And he catches it. That
or when Rey, for the first time in Star Wars history, drops a lightsaber, picks it up again with the other arm to
that's
go out.
pretty
'Cause
cool too.
In original,
Ben has something to say though,
in High Republic, like
because whenever Micah says for the
Jedi-
first time in Star
in
Wars
Jedi
history,
Council, come on.
No, keep going. Keep going. I'm not.
Doing things like that is considered dirty by extinguishing your lightsaber and reigniting it to dodge a blade is considered dirty play. By dropping your lightsaber while you are in a hold is considered dirty.
well, can you unignite your lightsaber if it's locked with another lightsaber, or is it stuck there?
I believe so.
You just wouldn't want to.
Yeah,
Right.
you wouldn't
'Cause
want
then-
to, but it's
right.
a risk that you could do. Because if you know that you're going to extinguish and reignite, then you can go.
So
and-
that's the only part of the fight where I'm like, what? Because the guard has her, you know,
Yeah.
and then it cuts to it's a cut, and then Rey she drops down. What happened to the hold that the guard had on
Force,
her, you know?
the Force willed it.
I guess so, but it's not evident in
she's
the
with
editing.
the Force and the Force is with her.
But yes, I think it's better than Finn, Rey, and Kylo in 7.
Same.
I like how Finn Ray Kylo looks a lot more than the throne room fight.
Okay.
But I would put it just above
Yeah,
it just because
I
of
like
how
it right
the
there.
feeling
Yeah.
of it is. How it's,
Not-
Sith
yeah.
and Jedi together. And
It's a duel, just not 1v1, like
Yeah.
lightsaber on lightsaber, but
it's fine.
it works. You
But
need it here.
even leaving the theater, I remember thinking to myself, wow, there was no actual lightsaber duel in this movie. Once again,
You gotta wait for the next movie for that.
Yeah, well, there's like 3 of them.
We get a couple next movie, so look out.
Look out.
Rise of Skywalker.
Look out for those awards for The Last Jedi. Nominated for Best Original Score, Best Sound Mixing, Best Sound Editing, Best Visual Effects for the Oscars. Grammy nominated for Best Score Soundtrack for Visual Media.
Really?
And BAFTA Award nom for Best Special Visual Effects and Best Sound.
How do you guys
Didn't
feel
win
about the
anything.
music?
The score's all right.
in
I
Last
feel like
Jedi.
the Octo 2 sound theme is very iconic. But then again,
Yeah.
I played Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, and you spend a lot of time on it.
That helps. Yeah. I don't know.
Spend a lot of time.
I didn't really notice it as much in this movie. I still like Rey's theme that carried over from the last one. Yeah, it didn't really jump out at me. Really didn't speak to me in a certain way.
There's one moment. I don't like the moment, but when Luke comes back and you start to get a weirdly heroic version of the Imperial March, and it's like dun 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 dun, and he starts to walk. The rebels are rising. They're looking at the heroic Luke Skywalker in the movie as he walks out and faces down the First Order. I like that. That's a cool bit of musical, tweaking by John Williams there. But otherwise, you just get rehashes of the Force theme, Yoda's theme. It's more of the same, So, and there's also some tracks that have hints of Revenge of the Sith in here too.
Yeah, and I want to point out real quick that Rian Johnson wrote this movie alone.
Solely, yeah.
Solo.
He-
That's next week. Which the only other time that's happened was episode 4, episode 1, and episode 3. Every other time, there was at least one other person working on either the screenplay or wrote the story or something like that. So
think we see a
cool.
narrative through line
Which
here.
something that we didn't point out before was that
All
Lawrence
the good ones.
Lawrence Kasdan, he helped write The Force Awakens. He was also one of the Return of the Jedi writers, one of the Empire Strikes Back writers, and
didn't we say that?
Wrote Solo. I don't know if we did, but I just wanted to point that out while I'm looking at it in case I forget it next week.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Just a lot of score awards then.
Yeah,
lot for the
a
music.
couple of visual effects, but
It's a beautiful movie.
There was a sound
Gotta
editing.
say the crate sequences.
The sound mixing and sound editing for when they hit the hyperdrive into with the Mon Calamari ship
Yes.
into the big old Dorito.
Yep. That was really cool. Even Sam, we were watching it, and Sam was like, "Oh, okay, that's really cool. That's really really good.
Yeah.
You can't deny it. It looks beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Can't deny it.
Money wise, this made less than any movie before it, but still made $1.3 billion, which is insane. This is the highest budget Star Wars movie
Oh my gosh.
ever at $317 million.
crazy, yeah.
It made $220 million on its opening, and it made 4.2 times its budget. Insane numbers. It would have made a lot more profit-wise if the budget was a little lower, but I mean, hey,
Yeah.
It's that 317 million,
which is close to our top Marvel ones, I think. I don't know what the top
and
for those
Infinity
are,
War
but
and Endgame were 500.
yeah.
They each were 500 million.
I forgot how I laid
Doesn't
this stuff
touch
out.
Indiana Jones.
No.
The Dial of Destiny. though.
How much was that one? That was 375, wasn't it? Or something like that?
I was like knocking on the door of 400.
Endgame was 356. Infinity War is 300. So this was an Avenger level threat, guys.
Yeah.
Crazy. But yeah. Now let's get into our the internet scores to just kind of get a sentiment of the idea of what the internet was
Right.
thinking.
Well,
we kind of touched on it earlier, but let's put some numbers to those ideas. So Rotten Tomatoes critic, 91%. Wow.
That came out. It came out a couple days before.
I
Like,
remember.
it was just. It
Yep,
was like
people-
everything was positive.
Critic, this is the first. Yeah, this is the first of our Star Wars movies where the critics loved it and the audience hated it.
Rotten
So
Tomatoes
91
wise, though.
Verse
so.
40. No. Metacritic too. 91 for critic, 42 for user. Metacritic critic score 84. Metacritic user 41. Letterboxd is at a 3 out of 5. Remember that. IMDb is a 6.9. Nice.
Nice.
And it averages out to a 64%. So a 6.4 out of 10, guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's like people like this movie. People didn't like this movie. If you didn't like it, you have very strong feelings about it. If you liked it, you had very strong feelings about it still. And you could totally see the argument for either side. If you were going in expecting this to be a really great Star Wars, what we've seen before, but better, then this was not your movie. But if you were looking to see a breakdown of the character archetypes, I'm kind of taking away from my review.
Which we can do because characters. Favorite character, favorite scene.
Yes.
We still
Holdo
have to
Reporter,
go.
real quick, while I'm on this sheet, Holdo Reporter gave this 6th place, and my ranking originally was 2nd place.
That's right.
Which I touched on before.
that's right.
Only behind.
As far as
Only
the
behind episode
the averages go of the internet scores, where does this place Last Jedi?
This is, let me sort. 6th place.
Wow.
Oh, wait. No.
7th
place. Sorry. Just under
Below
Revenge of the
Revenge.
Sith.
Yeah.
But I do want to point out this is the 2nd highest Metacritic score. This is not far percentage-wise from the top of Rotten Tomatoes Critic. It's only 3rd place if you consider the tie for 2nd with A New Hope and Force Awakens, which is weird. But, that's just how it is.
Interesting. Yeah, so no matter how how we feel about
still
it,
have to
good
watch
or
Holiday
bad, I got to say we always come back to favorite character, favorite scene of the movie. It's our way of saying there are positives to glean from everything.
Yes.
So as far as favorite characters go in this movie, Ethan, who would you say that you love?
I'm going to surprise myself here, but I'm going Daisy Ridley's Rey.
Oh.
I really liked Rey, and I find her parents being nobody, at least that reveal in this movie, and that's still my headcanon, because I remember that feeling in the theater. Your parents are nobody. I remember that feeling, oh wow, for the first time, this is just a character, and we're not supposed to love her because she has this great lineage. No, she's literally nobody. The Force is using her. And I like seeing her in this movie. And you could question why she's the one to go to Luke. Doesn't really make the most sense out of everyone in the Resistance to go to Luke that she's the one. But I like that she gets to go to Luke because she's Force sensitive. And Luke and her get a really cool dynamic where she knows nothing about the Force but loves it so much right now. And Luke knows so much about the Force, but he hates it. He shut it off. He's killed it if he has to. And I think that opens the door for a really good dynamic between these two characters. And I was really endured to Rey and how she is. Luke is confused why she would be so drawn to the darkness on the island. She doesn't know. She doesn't know what any of this stuff is. She's pulled to that. And I find her really compelling because, I don't know, I don't know all the mysteries of the Force. I'm just along for the journey. And that's her. She's just being moved by the Force. She doesn't know what's happening. I was really endured to her, and I think the performance from Daisy really knocks it out of the park and really works really well for me.
Ridley works for you.
Ridley works.
We have agreement on that one.
Sweet.
That's a great pick. Yeah. Micah?
Gonna have to go with a character that's a bit out of the waters, if you might add. Admiral Akbar. Rest
Another
in peace.
negative. Holy cow.
Oh no.
That's how you kill him?
Nah.
That's how he goes out?
He doesn't even get an on-screen death.
No. How do you do that?
I'm gonna go
Akbar?
with Poe Dameron, because I was very surprised. I completely forgot about his plot arc in this, how he changes as a character, and the redemption at the end where he realizes, oh, Luke is here. He's doing this for a reason. We got to do this. We gotta follow these crystal dogs, right? And then he looks over at Leia and, what are you looking at me for? I like that. Very, as Ethan said, for Daisy Ridley's character, very endeared to him now. I mean, I was endeared to him before,
I think from what they set up in that first movie, I think they built really. I like Poe even more. I like Rey even more.
Yes.
But as far as Finn goes, I think they really missed the mark with Finn.
In this movie or for Rise of Skywalker?
Whenever I say last movie, I'm referring to The Force Awakens.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
the last movie we watched with these characters.
Okay.
Not the
Because the
future-
last movie could mean the one we just watched, the one we previously watched, or
the past movie. Yeah.
yeah.
I
All right, so
understand.
I'm gonna pick Poe
Nice.
just because Oscar Isaac's amazing, and I wish we got more Poe action.
Yeah. The internet wishes we got a lot more out of Poe. Back then, I remember there was a trend going around that Poe and Finn needed to get together. Ethan's so angry he got up because of that one.
Get my pop figure out here, Duke Leto on the left.
Oh
While you're up there,
man, that's the one we forgot, man. So
you got
in-
X-Men Apocalypse. You're bringing that out.
nice. Got to show some Oscar Isaac appreciation right
You
there.
go.
Yep.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Yep. No, but I've always had a tradition of doing all these movies and picking a very random background character for each one of these films. There is not a lot to choose from with The Last Jedi, to be honest with you. And so, but the character I do want to highlight is actually, she's only in it for a very, very, very short time, but it's actually Rose's sister, the real hero of the story here, who goes all out and takes down that dreadnought.
The real Agent.
It's not Poe who takes it down, it's her. You know, if she wasn't in that bomber, the dreadnought would still be there. And honestly, man, imagine a world where Rose Tico wasn't the one we focused on, but it was her sister.
What's her name?
I have no idea.
Yeah, and critique the whole flipping around on the thing to grab.
Yes. Yeah.
Critique it all you want. The shot still looks beautiful.
I know. That one is a little
Because
rough.
I kind of left this out at the beginning, but I watched the first 30 minutes of this twice just because I'd started this movie on my own, and then I brought in a bunch of people to watch with me, so I restarted it. So yeah, on both rewatches of that, just the way it falls, she couldn't have caught that.
There's no way.
It works in the scene, but it does take you out of it where you go, okay. So I guess maybe it doesn't work in the scene. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I like that moment though. I think I don't know. I like the bomber.
That's also my favorite scene. No, I'm just kidding. But let's go into favorite scenes out of The Last Jedi. Mr. Wentzloff. You got one that speaks to you?
I'm gonna go the throne room scene. I think it encapsulates why I like this movie to begin with, because it all builds there, and the way that Snoke is, and the setup earlier in the movie where we had all these critiques of Kylo going into this movie. How did Rey beat him? Snoke addresses all of that, and Snoke degrades Kylo, and then Kylo walks to the room, breaks his mask up. So we know Kylo and Snoke, they have a rocky relationship, even though we don't know too much about Snoke. So then going into this, and Snoke's sitting there, and he's like, I sense you driving the blade into your enemy. And he's holding the lightsaber at Rey, but then Luke's lightsaber turns and slices him in half. That scene I really do like. I think it plays very well. And yes, Snoke's gone now, but as far as a narrative choice for Kylo to make, I love that. I think it's really good.
In that specific moment. Yeah.
In that moment, yeah.
It's good stuff. I agree. Mr. Head?
For my favorite scene, I gotta say, I was so surprised that I felt the character for Holdo.
Really?
I just because it surprised me so much.
Can I do a side note real quick?
Yeah, sure.
So I think I know what you're going to say. But during COVID, our buddy Avery had watched all 9 Star Wars movies. And I asked him, Avery, what is your single favorite moment from all 9 movies? And he looked at me and he said, well, in episode 8, when that lady hyperspeeds into the other ship, that's my favorite scene in all of Star Wars.
I think he also said that was his favorite movie as well. When I asked him, we had a conversation about Star Wars.
He's a divisive guy. And he, like I said, and like we've established, he didn't grow up with Star Wars. That was just another movie.
It's a big prerequisite when it comes to this one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't expect Holdo to be a character because the first time I watched it, I remember just hating Holdo, and I didn't understand the whole Poe Dameron Holdo tension there. I just thought Holdo was this stupid, uptight lady who didn't want Poe to be the hero. But now I saw otherwise. I saw that Holdo was being a respectable, general, and knew what she had to do and knew that it didn't involve Poe. Poe was not part of this plan. Poe does not need to know. He is not in the room. He doesn't need to be in the room, and he's just a whiny baby who I see it otherwise now. I see part of that, but I see why she kept him out. I understand her now. I understand that she's trying to win the war, not win Poe's love, right? Not win Poe's appreciation. Plus the hyperspace thing at the end. So I'm going to say from the time she says, may the force be with you. And then Leia's like, oh, I say it enough. You can say it this time. To the time she hyperspaces out was very cool.
So once again, Micah kind of, cheating.
Turns the tides.
Cheating as Micah cheats.
Subverts expectations. Although actually our expectation at this point
was
that
pretty,
that is going to happen.
was pretty low.
Like Ryan Johnson, I subvert expectations.
Yeah.
And it's loved by the panel.
Everyone.
Oh yeah.
Very divisive.
Bad.
Yoda. I gotta go with the Yoda scene. Number one,
Which
I just
a lot
like
of people don't like it all
why?
because people didn't like Yoda, like the Yoda
The
look.
puppet looks a little
the
different.
puppet
Yeah.
look. Yeah, it's a little.
Yeah.
Why didn't they just stick with CGI? I don't know. I mean, you also the commitment to practical effects and having that nostalgia feel back there, but it's really impossible to create the same old puppet after this long. They tried their best, but yeah, I agreed. Mm-hmm. There is a little bit there, but I love the lesson that Yoda brings to Luke. In the broader context of the story, I have problems, but that specific scene, and just as a life lesson, failure is the greatest teacher. The only way you can learn a lesson is by failing, and Yoda teaches that to Luke, and the student lesson, they are what, or what is it? They are what we grow beyond. Or something like that. That's not the exact quote.
It's like the curse of the Jedi is that they are, or the curse of the Masters was that.
Right. The curse of the Masters. Yeah.
Yeah, is our apprentices are what we should.
Yeah, I can't even say it. I can't even remember what it is.
I am what you made me.
It's just so genius. But yeah, I love the Yoda sequence, the music there. I like that.
And
what we are, we are what they grow beyond. That's the true burden of all masters.
Yep,
that is
love
cool.
that.
That's a good line.
And then
the greatest teacher failure is
the scene with Kylo Ren shirtless. Ooh. That's a close second right there, man.
Ben
Swallow.
Oh man!
All right, I'm a
good meme.
No.
We're spend the rest of the podcast shirtless.
I don't know if we ever
that picture leaked and the memes were just insane for it.
Beautiful.
We don't talk about the shirtless podcast enough on air.
True.
But ladies and gentlemen, one day a shirtless podcast is coming for you all.
We did
but
another holiday special.
I want to say
episode.
quickly, for the sake of divisiveness, we always do favorite scene, but I feel like it's appropriate for this week to also do least favorite scene, unless I'm mistaken. Because I think going from favorite scene into review is just too of a big contrast for Ben, at least. We got to set the stage a little with some negativity, guys. As much as me and Mike have been talking about this movie, I know Ben is bubbling.
Canto
and
bites, all right?
All right. Ben, I want to give you the floor. Least favorite scene.
See, I actually haven't thought
in
about
The Last
this.
Jedi.
I wasn't ready for this one.
I know. I'm subverting the expectations of the listeners.
All right, Ryan Johnson.
Oh my goodness, there's a lot you can pick from. The moment Luke throws the saber, the Yo Mama joke. Lot of it. God. I hate it. I hate the Yo Mama joke. It's so outside of Star Wars that it's just the purist in me.
It's not a direct Yo Mama joke. It's
from his mother. It's a mom joke. What are we doing here, folks?
I don't know. Mom joke.
It made me laugh.
In Star Wars, I'm not saying it's you can laugh at it. It's great.
It's a wizard.
I don't
it's
like
wizard,
that.
Annie, right?
It's very wizard.
There are scenes they get angry at. I don't know.
I just like fuming.
Like the scene from Revenge of the Sith. I can't watch anymore. Like that.
Does your wife
that's
have
how
a
I
least
am.
favorite scene?
The scene when Luke drinks the milk, I think, is her least favorite scene. She was she was not ready for it. I didn't actually prepare her, so it's my fault. But she was not ready for that, and I think she was pretty.
I think
disgusted.
that whole bit of Luke going on his daily adventure—that's so corny. Oh yeah,
That's
Ray's
terrible.
Ray's here. I'm not going to change what I'm doing. And the comedically large stick to stab the fish. That to me, that was one of the funniest things in the movie. Why do you have a big stick, Luke?
Right?
You know, Yoda had a big stick.
Little stick.
I don't.
No
gosh.
single least favorite scene or least favorite
You know what?
choice.
It's got to be the scene that makes me the most angry is the explanation of why Luke is doing what he's doing. So that would probably have to be it, the backstory. And for the slightest moment, I thought I could stop it, you know? Mark Hamill gives a great performance, but I'm with him. Like, I disagree with everything that goes on with him in this movie. And so much of that is built on the crux of that specific scene. I even watched the commentary for it. I was like, how does this make sense? Why does Rian Johnson? And he doesn't give a reason for it. He just says, you know, that's where all of this hinges on, you know?
Jar
He said
Jar Binks.
that specific scene, why he turns, that's the crux of this movie. You either buy into that or you don't. And there's going to be a lot of it. And he even said, and obviously I know I'm recording this before, you know, this has come out in theater, so I don't really know what fans are going to think about it. And I just like, Rian Johnson.
Sorry,
the
dude.
poor guy.
Man.
And I believe he actually has come out and apologized in the past about this. I don't think he's apologized about the film. I think he's just apologized to Star Wars fans.
I think he's proud of the film that he made, and he was never afraid to hop on Twitter and defend certain choices of this movie. You can go on his old Twitter and find just him responding to people and fight. Just, this is what I read. This is what I read, you know? So it's cool. What are you laughing at?
I was shaking my foot and Black
the bobblehead.
The bobblehead was bobbling.
Micah, least favorite scene?
Least favorite scene, just Canto Bite in general.
Good.
There's just nothing really of worth that I found in there. They just kind of show up. They get the guy that doesn't help them, and they leave. Subverts expectations.
How do you feel about
that one's the one that doesn't work for me as
little
much.
broom boy?
Little broom boy. Take it or leave it. They don't do anything with
It's
it anyway.
so like, okay.
Yeah, we know
know?
that there's other Force users in the galaxy. When the movie first came out, I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah.
But now that I know that there were many other Force users in the galaxy at that time that they didn't use, could have had Cal Kestis out there. Who knows?
Ray's the Last Jedi.
Ahsoka was alive.
We don't know that. We hear her voice.
Yeah, we don't.
in
I
the
don't think
next
she's
movie.
actually alive
She's
at this
probably
point.
dead.
Yeah.
Micah.
She'd be about 70 canonically.
She'd be mega old. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I was thinking Mandalorian was after 9.
You're all kind of jumbled.
Yeah, it's after 6.
If it was after 9, I would be.
The scene that always kills me is Mary Poppins. Her Leia flying through space. I
Yeah.
think it's terrible.
Yeah.
So corny and just doesn't feel right. Especially with the death they have to give her in the next movie.
Right. There's a feeling you get while watching, and you're like, what? What? This is wrong. I didn't know it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not good.
But you know what's wrong is that we haven't given our scores yet.
Yes. Oh.
That's a good point. If you guys have a favorite scene, drop it in the comments down below. Least favorite, most favorite. But now is the time.
Comment
folks.
anything down below. Go.
Yes, please. We will definitely be interacting.
Comment your favorite way to roast a porg.
Ooh, yeah. But gentlemen, the time is now. The time has come to give.
So is Chewbacca a converted vegan now? Or vegetarian?
Oh,
'Cause
no.
he's
he was
ready to eat
macking on that thing.
He hated those porgs.
We don't see him
afterward.
eat the porg.
Yeah, but he still hated them.
He's in the cockpit though with the porg.
Yeah, it doesn't mean
in
he
the
was
final
annoyed at
battle.
them. He was so annoyed with
Dude,
those
he totally
things.
was. He shoved the thing off the dashboard.
Yeah, he's like, get out of here. Oh,
Yeah.
he would eat another one in a heartbeat. He
100%.
brought those
I
so
would
he
eat
could have
another
fresh
one.
meat on the Falcon.
Oh yeah.
Also, I think the final battle on Crate, I like so much of that.
Yeah.
I think it's really good.
Looks beautiful.
Yeah. And I like the shooting at Force Ghost Luke. And I know you don't like this, Ben, but he just brushes his shoulder. I think that's so cool. That's so cool. It's like, get off me. Come on. Smug Luke. But that leads us right into our score segment. The moment that every listener sits and waits or skips for their time code, because a lot of our comments seem to be centered basically just on our scores. They skip to the time code just to say, Ben is right. Ben is right. Okay. And you know what? I think for the vast majority of our audience, they side with you, Ben. So I want you to lead the way with
I'm
score.
going to start off.
I would like
Yes,
to
You
hear
want me
because-
to start?
My score is not set, and I would very much love
I've got a score.
for you to play into, because I know my cap. I know as high as I want to go, and I know as low as I would be willing to go. But there's a range.
So
at where I could end up.
you basing your score on this movie partially based off of my score for this movie?
I think
No,
he's still
not.
thinking.
I know basically where I want to go, but maybe you bring up a point that drastically changes everything. So I would love to hear you go, Ben.
This is the spaghetti strands.
All
Yes.
right. So I've talked about this movie at length. The podcast is already as long as it is. But it's no surprise. I don't like it. I would go as far as to say I actually hate this movie. I do. I have hatred in my heart for this movie. I know I need to let it go.
hate flow through.
I do. So much of this movie messes with me as a Star Wars
As a
mega
human,
Star Wars
that's what
fan.
you were gonna say.
As a human, I just so much of it from a film perspective. I think a lot of it works. There's things I critique, but as a Star Wars fan, as a Star Wars story, this it doesn't offend me, but it really goes against the grain. And when I'm watching it, I feel that like how OT purists felt watching the prequels. So much of this is just, oh man. And I can see how people like it. If you're not the biggest fan and as invested into the huge story, the expansive story that is Star Wars.
Even if you are,
And you're open to-
you're open to some different takes and different directions. I'd say that. Because I like Luke Skywalker's character as a Jedi, and I also don't hate the direction of this.
Yes, but what I'm saying, like, I am so like, I don't want this to sound like I'm better, because it's not. That's not what I'm going for here. But I have just read so many books and have delved into so much lore and have seen so much of the TV shows. That's not, and it's not me saying that my opinion is better than yours. I am saying that part of me and that specific fan element, because I would say we're all three different Star Wars fans. That's what I'm saying. Me, how much I'm into this galaxy, this contradicts that. And we've talked at length about how much this, subverts expectations. In the 8th movie in a franchise, why are we doing that? Why aren't we doing something with these fan favorite characters? And I could go at length about the decisions, but a lot of my anger is directed at Disney and the story group here. What happened? What happened? Ryan Johnson does not deserve all the hate he got. They didn't know. And Kathleen
What were
Kennedy,
they
the fact that
cooking?
all of them came out and said, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, we're going to give him a trilogy. It shows how much they really do understand about the galaxy of Star Wars, and that's what shakes my faith so much. This is why I have such a hard time buying into anything that comes out from Disney Star Wars, because they saw this and said, this is excellent. We love this. And I hate this. So that's why I have such a hard time. The Acolyte is another huge project coming out with a well-known director. And it's like, I can't buy into it yet because I don't know where they're going to go. I don't know their specific vision of Star Wars. My specific vision of Star Wars is George Lucas. And I don't know that he would have gone in this. Actually, I do know he wouldn't have gone in this direction. There are the scripts that are out there for it. But at the end of the day, I don't really for me, believe in objective filmmaking. If I had to review this objectively, it would be a different score. I review these films based on how I feel and the kind of person and the journey that I have experienced up to the 23 and a half years of my life. And the kind of Star Wars fan that I am cannot give this a high score at all. In fact, this is going to be a low score, guys. One of the lowest scores that I've given. And yeah, it's gonna cause some controversy because so much of this movie, I'm proud of myself because I've done a good job at not being angry on this podcast.
I've been very surprised.
Like
I'll say that. Yeah.
I have been. I really wanted to try and come at this at being objective here, but I really, really don't like this movie.
Yeah.
I really, really don't like this movie. So, where Rise of Skywalker fits in this, I don't know yet.
Whew.
But as of right now, this is actually what it was beforehand when I did my previous ranking, because sometimes I have IMDb scores like saved like back in the day because I know I rated these beforehand, but it was the same score actually. Mm-hmm. It's a 3 out of 10.
Oh,
whoa!
Just a little bit better than Battle for Endor, huh?
See, the Battle for Endor doesn't upset me. It's just nothing. But there is some good stuff in here. But so much of this movie goes against what I am. And I don't know that I will ever rewatch this movie after this.
That's so funny that you say that, because as I was actively watching this and I was streaming it on Disney Plus, I hopped on Amazon to buy the 4K Blu-ray of this because I just couldn't do it. Oh, the streaming quality looks so bad. I need to own this movie, and that's the sentiment that
Streaming,
I had.
I feel like has gotten way worse looking.
I started on Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
I went to my Blu-ray.
Yeah.
And it looked better than the 4K that they've got streaming on Disney Plus.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, what's going on here? I don't know. It might be that's a whole different topic. But
like streaming used to look a lot better.
Didn't it?
Yeah.
I don't remember it looking all like
Remember back in like
squished.
2015 or so on Netflix when they first released 4K streaming? It looked so clear. Like streaming Stranger Things for the first time, they looked beautiful.
That's what I remember. Yeah.
But I don't know. It's
just trying to get us to buy physical media. They're pushing it. Hey, it's a market we got to push.
Yep, 100%.
Which Walmart is confirmed to be the only one to be selling physical movies by 2025.
Really?
That's sad. Target's phasing it out officially this week.
Oh, what?
Best Buy have phased it out earlier this year. Target will be selling them strictly online, and then any new releases will be in person.
It's always fun to gauge a movie fan, and I don't know. I just feel like for you to have like, say, top 4 films, I feel like you have to own at least 3 of those. That's my sentiment.
Yeah.
And if you don't, I'm not saying anything against owning movies or anything. I just feel like there's
for the preservation of your favorite film, you have a duty to own that. And Christopher Nolan said something about that with the release of Oppenheimer. Like, you are a film preservationist by owning a copy of this film.
Oh, yeah.
Like a physical copy, not a digital one, because we know digital license can be taken away just like that.
Where's the Willow TV series right now?
Yeah.
Willow's gone.
It's
Dark
gone.
Crystal, that one's
Who's
gone.
to say that can't happen with anything else on any sort of streaming service? And if that's what you go off of, like...
I wasn't a super big fan. I mean, like, WandaVision was okay, but I bought the Blu-ray of it because who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Plus, it's beautiful.
Pretty cool steelbook.
Yeah.
It is a good...
It's a cool steelbook. That and Loki.
Yes.
But,
sorry.
You know what else is beautiful? My score for this movie.
Oh, go ahead.
And
yes.
I really like this movie. I like the direction it goes. I like how it subverts expectations, but it is not perfect. There are things that maybe subverted a little too much, makes characters unlikable in some ways that are good, some ways that are bad, specifically Rose being a bad one, Holdo being a good one, and overall I like the decisions made for most of these characters. I like how it sets it up for Rise of Skywalker. Unfortunately, doesn't quite, pick up the ball that was thrown. J.J. Abrams threw out a lot of what was... retconned a lot of Last Jedi, but that's not for this episode.
No.
The Last Jedi is a beautiful movie with great cinematography, amazing moments, amazing character arcs, that we didn't see at all in Force Awakens. I like that they actually take these characters and do something with it. I think it's a little bit better written than The Phantom Menace, but not as iconic. So it doesn't quite get as high up as Return of the Jedi for me. I'm going to give it an 8.6. Just slightly better than Phantom Menace.
Wow. I love the range in this. This just goes to show you the divisiveness of this film. This is exactly
you
what
see
the
it on
internet
the panel,
is.
and I'm glad that we have these differing views, because what Ben didn't like about this movie is what I kind of liked about this movie.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you'll see online is that difference.
I will say I am glad that we all don't just hate it.
Yeah.
It makes for interesting conversation. It does.
Although 3 is...
Three is kind of extreme.
I gave Electra a 3.
Yeah, like 3 is barely a movie for me. 3 is... I am physically hurt watching this. I am
physically hurt watching Last Jedi.
There is no composure in this film, is what I would... But...
No, that's actually why I
That's
give
up
it
to you.
certain points. Rey and Kylo, the composure of it being a film, and certain other elements, it looks beautiful. But how much I am angry at it, that's why. That's why it's that low. But I totally respect your 8.6.
Okay.
I respect your 3. Not as
see-
much as you respect my 8.6, but I respect it.
I respect both your 3, Ben, and your 8.6, which is why I'm going... no, I'm kidding. Let me set the stage.
9.
Ouch.
I can't really get that high because of the average.
I like this movie, guys. I was actually really surprised with how much I liked it, because I've spent a good amount of time talking to you, Ben, about how a lot of this trilogy is just bad and the direction is bad. But especially in the context of just rewatching The Force Awakens and watching this, I was surprised how much more I liked this than The Force Awakens, and how much better of a movie it is than Force Awakens. And yes, Canto Bight, that goes nowhere, but that also isn't too much of the movie. And I also think about Kendra Club, how that really goes nowhere in The Force Awakens. And there's things that I don't like in this movie. I don't like Leia flying. You could question Luke's character, but I am kind of really sympathetic towards that. I like seeing a character not being a savior, right? I don't need my characters to always be perfect, to be the best that we've ever envisioned them. And seeing Luke down bad, making bad choices, isolating himself, we don't know why he does that. It's not really explained, like note for note, but I don't need that, because emotionally I get there. And I like the direction that this movie goes from the galaxy standpoint. And a lot of the same reason I loved Empire is you see the grip that the First Order has on the Resistance, and how they are it's just Poe starting off in an X-Wing going, and many of the bombers. I like small group versus bigger group. And the First Order feels a lot smaller in this movie than they did in the last movie. And I like that. It feels a lot more...
Both sides
feels a lot more personal, this movie. And I like the personalness of it between Kylo Ren and Rey. And I really... maybe even Kylo Ren's my favorite character, because he has a lot of good work. Adam Driver... I really am upset with a lot of the actors and where they've gone after this.
Go watch some
trilogy,
Adam Driver
because
movies. You'll like them.
This forever, Daisy Ridley will forever be Rey. Adam Driver will forever be Kylo Ren. Oscar Isaac, he's done other stuff, but he is Poe. And I hate that they're put in this box, because they're great actors, great performers. Same with John Boyega as Finn. But I liked so much of this movie, and I was surprised with how well, when Luke vanished at the end, how satisfied I was as a movie watcher, and just content I was with that movie. I wasn't expecting to feel that way, but when Rey says he was at peace, he felt the Force calling him to go. Yes, there was more to him to do, but the same way there was more for Obi-Wan to do, but it was his time to go. Yeah. And maybe I want it, because even when I watch the A New Hope, I think Obi-Wan could have done more. He could have stayed. And I think that with Luke too, but I like how he's pulled away from us. I think it leaves you wanting more, but in a good way. And I like the subverting of expectations. Snoke going down, Rey's parents being nobody. I like all that. And I am boiling everything, and I cannot go lower than an 8 with this. So I have to sit this at an 8.
All right. One more thing I do want to add is my Aunt Katie, once this movie came out, and then after Rise of Skywalker, both times she was like, I'm tired of the Skywalkers. I want to hear more. She had Skywalker fatigue. And that was just another point of view that I've heard and wanted to throw out there, is that this is a lot of Skywalker, and the Star Wars universe is huge. To focus only on the Skywalker family, it's kind of limiting. Puts it in a box. But that's a story for another day, maybe in 2 weeks. Because we have, or maybe even next week, because we're not even talking about the Skywalkers next week. With Ben's 3, with my 8.6, and with Ethan's 8, we have an average of 6.5 out of 10. Just a little bit lower than episode 7 at a 6.7. The one just beneath this one is Revenge of the Sith. So, what do you guys think? My laptop just died.
So you're pulling up the spreadsheet.
I'm pulling it up on my MacBook.
Yeah. But that puts it, this is as far as the main 8 go, this is last of the main 8.
5,
Correct?
6, 7, 8. 9th place.
Yeah. So 9th place, Rogue One's in there too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
8th
mean,
place.
I say as far as our scores go, we can always debate it. But I know whatever the ranking reigns true, maybe. Ben, 9th place for this?
I mean, it's your lowest rated.
Yeah, I mean,
I know you don't agree with the
don't know.
6.5 of it.
I don't know where. That's the thing. I can't call this my least favorite one because I haven't rewatched Rise of Skywalker yet. But
And
that
that'll be
movie,
interesting.
that's another one that I have. I don't know if I'm as
I
angry
think
about that
so
one.
much
but
of this movie hinges on Luke.
Yeah, it does.
And
yes, yeah.
how you take Luke. And I was more on board for a down bad Luke than you were, Ben.
Yeah. Yep. That's what it is. It's just I don't know if I'll ever be able to get behind
Actually,
it. Man.
right when this movie ended, I had this feeling like I'm sorry. I'm sorry to all the Star Wars fans and just anyone in general who watches this and they can't enjoy it. Because I thought there's so much fun and so much wonder and visual amazement and action to be had in this that I don't know. I feel really bad that like you can't watch this movie and get the same
Believe me,
pleasure I have from it.
I do too.
Yeah.
I really do too. My least favorite thing is hating on Star Wars. As much as I do it, I don't. I go into these movies wanting to love everything that Star Wars comes out with, and of recent years it's been kind of hard to do that, but this was the start of my souring of the relationship. It's like, how did we get here? What was the direction? Who was in charge here?
And like I said, this movie was a big motivation for me to really stop caring about Star Wars and not that I was as into it as you. I watched some of the Clone Wars. I didn't watch it crazily. We would order some Clone Wars from Netflix and we'd get them in the mail, and that's how I would watch Clone Wars. I didn't have Cartoon Network, but
We weren't rich like you, Ben.
no, we weren't rich like Ben. But I was into Star Wars, and I like Star Wars. But this movie was really the movie that made me go, okay, maybe being a part of Star Wars isn't worth all the trouble because of, I'm not worth like hopping in the ring and fighting with someone for this. I don't know if it's worth that.
I think, like for me, I just think you have to know where you stand and why you stand there. Then it's fine. Like if you have an opinion on it, and I'm never going to be one to tell you your opinion on something is wrong because it's your opinion. It's subjective. But as long as you know why you think that and you present that to me, it's fully respectable. Like I get it. I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
Like Lando says in the next movie, I don't like it. I don't agree with it, but I accept it. I totally can accept where you're coming from. So, but that's it. Like, it's truly divisive. Actually, I would say you guys are pretty much on kind of the same road, both 8s and above.
I love what Micah said with, like, because I do think this is a really good movie. And there are bad elements in it, but I think there are bad elements in so many movies. But I love, you said it's a good movie, but maybe not the best Star Wars movie. But I'm like, that was a fun Star Wars movie, but it's a different kind of Star Wars than what Ben wanted.
Mm-hmm.
It goes against everything that it's been set up before, you know?
Yeah.
Like 7 movies in this main trilogy have come before it, and I can't help but sit there and say, why? Why was this the decision we went in?
Yeah.
You know? There are so many other things we could have done.
Yeah. And I think that's what you have going into it, because I'm sitting down there for the 2 hours, 30 minutes. I'm like, I want this 2 hours and 30 minutes to be great. And I thought this was pretty good. Whereas, yeah, if you have that broader view, maybe it's not as good and it falls apart a little.
I always come into my Star Wars to, how does this chapter fit into the wider galaxy? I almost don't even see them as movies.
Yeah.
It's a chapter and a story for me.
See them as Star Wars stories, much like we'll see next week.
That's right, folks.
With Solo, a Star Wars story, the second to last in our Star Wars review series, our Star Wars Multiverse Marathon review.
Man, we're almost done.
Yeah,
guys, I still have to watch Holiday Special.
Yeah, you do. Come on, you got to get on that,
Maybe I
man.
can knock that out today. I don't know.
Oh, no way.
Gosh.
But yeah, this has been a fun journey. After these Star Wars movies, I might take a break for a minute.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting married.
Mike is getting married. He's getting
Oh.
hitched.
Ow!
And we've got, what, a month and a couple weeks? Not even?
42 days, I believe.
42 days. Holy catfish. So yeah, Mike is going to be taking a break.
Yes.
Do you know how long your hiatus is going to be?
Just when I'm ready to jump back in.
When
We'll
you're ready.
see.
That's
when it's,
good.
When
That's
it's
a good
convenient to jump
parameter.
back into the podcast. So if you guys are in the middle of a series, I'm
Yeah.
going to just jump right in. But
Yes.
yeah,
I'm not ready, Mike. I'm going to miss you.
Oh,
probably in July.
believe me. Yeah. Okay.
I'll probably take a month.
the podcast.
If I have enough vacation days, if that's all right with you guys.
it's. We'll see if I can.
I've
work
got
it
enough
into-
PTO.
We got a good amount of candidates to come replace you, Micah.
Wow.
Well, replace is a hard word.
Yeah,
'Cause I don't know if
look
anyone
forward to
can
some good stuff in my
replace
hiatus. though.
Micah, but they can definitely add to
I might
this
do
podcast.
an Antique Marvel
With
episode.
me?
Yeah,
All
vintage
right,
Marvel.
Every time you have
You'll
time,
come
down
out
for that.
You'll come out of retirement to do vintage Marvel.
Yeah. If I can sneak one in.
Yeah.
but you're not saying you're retiring for good,
No,
right?
No, I will totally. I love the stuff, and I love talking with you guys about movies that
He'll be back.
don't matter at all, and just
Yeah.
shooting the poop.
He
as they
does our
say.
spreadsheets. We need him.
Yeah, you guys.
Who's going to do all this?
gonna keep track of all this garbage?
That's too many numbers we can get from the internet. We need you, Micah.
Right, exactly.
Compile a list.
If I was really smart, I can automate all this to update as the numbers update. But I'm not that smart.
Like the
so
stocks.
yeah, like this could be the Dow right here with Star Wars online scores.
Guys, The Last Jedi went up 2 points this past week.
What? Sell it! Sell it!
That's awesome. Yeah, we're going to miss you, Micah. But
Just
yeah,
like you'll miss this episode.
3 weeks left. We got 2 Star Wars
But-
movies and then a Star Wars recap, right?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll try going for one of those. We'll talk about scores we regret. So Ben will be talking about sequel trilogy quite a bit, and we'll be talking about scores that we loved. So Ben will be talking about his holiday special score, and maybe I'll include my holiday special scores in that review in that episode.
Okay.
So stay in touch.
Yes.
Follow us on Letterboxd.
That's right, folks.
Links in the description below.
You'll get some spoilers if you're on Letterboxd and you follow us. But
If you're listening on Spotify, leave a comment. I don't know if you can see those. I left some.
I have no idea how to see them.
I've tried.
We get the
yeah.
emails. We get the emails. Oh, someone left a Q&A on your Spotify. Sorry, people. We don't know how to look at those. I don't know.
I left a couple of comments.
Yeah, we get
I'm
emails.
still trying
whenever-
to figure out how to look at them. Yeah, right?
But leave a review on Apple Podcasts if you listen. I know a few of you listen on Apple Podcasts.
Isn't
and
Apple Podcast
you
dead?
haven't?
No,
No,
Google
Google
Podcasts.
Podcast,
Google Podcast
is
died.
done for.
But
Yeah.
Apple Podcast is there. So
But yeah.
write a review on there and give us 5 stars or 4 stars or 3, whatever you think we deserve. We'll take it.
3 out of 10.
Ooh.
That's what we deserve.
That's what The Last Jedi got out of 5 on Letterboxd. Yeah. 3 out of 5.
Guys, I think we did it. I think we had a civil
That was a solid
conversation
discussion. Thank
about
you guys for listening.
Yeah, Last Jedi.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was possible. I was actually
Do you feel at peace
hotly
like you can vanish into
anticipating.
the Force? You've gotten your words out?
I feel peaceful and purposeful right now.
That's
Yes.
good.
Yes. So that does it for The Last Jedi, folks. Stay tuned next week for Solo, and then the week after that for The Rise of Skywalker, which I know we've got a lot of things to say about that one. As of right now, this is Ben Rayside.
This is Ethan.
I have to pee.
And we all hope you have an absolutely fantastic day. And remember...
No, let me say it. Let me say it.
Okay, all
You've
right.
said it enough.
All right.
See you guys.